Oh, hey there. Welcome to the Ope-Eh Three-Way Pro Wrestling Podcast on this Wednesday, your Thursday, or whenever. All I know is today is episode 26 day. Here with Don and Pierce. Boys, how we doing?
I'm popping a 3 milligram citrazine because I expect you guys to be mean about one of the Rumble winners, and I have to defend him.
I
Clearly,
mean,
her.
to be
you
fair with
need
me, I
to
think you can expect both.
you need to defend
I
Charlotte Flair, eh?
look, I've been saying it all week. I think as a shock winner, there probably wasn't a better one. So,
As well, we'll get into that in a little bit. We don't want to get the cart before the horse here, but we will be talking about the Royal Rumble in its entirety and all the fun goings with that. We're going to talk about your experience at Royal Rumble weekend, Pierce,
yeah,
since you
Yeah,
were
you
in
lucky bastard, you.
Indianapolis.
I think I got away with highway robbery for my tickets. I'll say that.
Dope.
You sure did.
We're going to talk about the transfer window, which was as impactful as a Jey Uso title match. And yeah, we'll also do our normal on this day segment, but follow us on socials. We are up to episode 11 now of the podcast on YouTube. So we're catching up there. Should be caught up before WrestleMania for sure. Ideally, by the end of the month, we'll have everything up there. And then our other social accounts, Instagram. Pierce posted some of his photos from the weekend up on Instagram, so check those out. Also on the stories there and on Facebook, Brandon is always posting some stuff.
Some stuff, yeah.
Some stuff and things.
That's smattering.
I'm usually tweeting and getting people to like my tweets. So
yeah, there's that too.
Generating a lot of positive impact there. A lot of gravitational pull right into our podcast.
That's the hope.
The Ope or the Hope?
Both.
Okay. Well, without further ado. Tell us what the hell happened on February 5th at some point in wrestling history.
We actually got a short one today, but the first thing that happened is quite a huge footnote in WWE history. In 1998, WWF, the main event took place at Madison Square Garden. An insane 33 million people tuned in to watch the WrestleMania 3 rematch between Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant. In this match, Andre would do like a hip toss to Hulk. He'd pin him. Hulk kicks out at 1, 2, 3. Ref calls for the bell. Andre the Giant wins the championship. Earl Hebner was supposed to be the referee, and it turned out to be his brother. I believe Dave Hebner is his brother's name. So they did some like twin magic before twin magic. After the match, there was some even more shenanigans. Because Andre would try and sell the title to Ted DiBiase, and WWF president Jack Tunney would vacate the title, and it led into WrestleMania 4's World Title Tournament, where at the end of it, the Macho Man Randy Savage would defeat Ted DiBiase to become champion.
Oh, yeah!
Andre the Giant's record-setting reign lasted 45 seconds, and that is recognized as the shortest title reign in the history of the belt. Hogan's reign would end at an astounding 1,474 days.
AKA the record that Roman Reigns almost beat with his previous title run. Very close.
Probably should have.
Yeah, you know.
Just
Depending on who you ask.
Just to get Hogan out of that last possible person you could consider beating, because the other options were not possible to beat.
Yeah, I think the next 3 would be probably Pedro Morales, Bob Backlund, and Bruno Sammartino. So those, I think, all went over 1,900 days.
Yeah,
so.
those were never an option, but Hogan's was.
But I mean, it's still this event is like an insane footnote in the history of WWF, WWE, and it's cool to look back. And might I say, this year it's way overdue. Let's put Jack Tunney in the Hall of Fame. He was the voice of the WWF as the kayfabe president for like close to 8 or 9, maybe 10 years. So,
Wait, time out. Tunney's not in the Hall of Fame?
No.
Holy shit.
He's way overdue.
Oh, absolutely. How do you not include Tunney in the Hall of Fame?
Well,
Holy
He
man.
just doesn't want in.
He's dead.
Yeah, that too, but maybe his family just doesn't want him in.
Yeah, who knows? But we'll jump ahead to 2002. After eliminating The Undertaker in the Royal Rumble, Maven would get a hardcore title shot on SmackDown, and he would upset The Undertaker to win the hardcore title. So
At first, I thought you were going to comment on that hard-ass chair shot to the head he took after he eliminated The Undertaker, which still lives rent-free in my head.
Yeah, Taker took care of Maven, but the thing is that Maven, I believe he's allergic to like aspirin or something, like blood thinner, so he can get a real crimson mask. So he was asking the veterans what he needs to do, and they're like, "Oh, just take a couple shots of Jack," and he took a few too many. So, fun fact: Raven was fucking hammered when he drop kicked the Undertaker.
You said Raven or Maven?
He said Raven,
probably
but he
both,
meant
but
Maven.
Maven? Raven? What?
Maven, Mr. Huffman, come on the show sometime.
I still love his theme song. I'm with CVV on this one. He had one of the best theme songs in the business.
Are we talking
It's
about Raven or
like,
Maven?
well, both, but for different reasons. In this particular case, I'm talking about Maven.
Okay.
Just perfect early 2000s, just butt rock. Great.
You know
Butt
who I
rock?
think had the perfect early 2000s butt rock theme?
Mm.
Randy Orton. Randy Orton's "Burning My Light" is like, besides maybe Batista's theme, my favorite theme of all time.
It's not bad.
Redacted's theme is pretty good too, though. That's a goated theme.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
And the band who plays it is Cody Rhodes' favorite band.
Yeah, I know. They're also
Okay.
Canadian. So,
Hey, go figure, huh?
yeah.
Look at that.
So there was a fair amount of bands that did the 2000s options. I say this as I pour myself a drink, and now my cat is in the fridge. He has literally never done this before. But sorry. No, there's a lot of Canadian content in those songs. Like Kane's "Slow Chemical," that was also Canadian.
That is Kane's best theme.
Yeah,
I will die on that hill. It is so good.
That was Finger 11.
Oh, Finger 11?
Also Canadian, yeah.
Mm-hmm. You are not wrong.
2010s, 2020s, Downstate is just becoming the band for themes if you don't want shitty Def Rebel. So,
anyways, the cat has been removed from the fridge. We are back.
Oh,
hey.
Just had a good drink of water.
Fuck out the fridge there.
We're feeling good today, boys. But that's all that
Fred.
happened on this day, besides some random title changes. But I thought the Maven one would be fun because it's we're just finishing up Rumble season.
Yeah,
And
that makes
speaking
sense.
of the Rumble,
well, no, we're not there
your boy
yet.
was there.
We're not
Well,
there.
we
yet.
finished.
We're not
we
there
finished
yet.
Rumble season, yes. But with Rumble season finishing, we've also closed the transfer window. And since we have brought this up in a previous podcast episode, I thought we should just take a quick little glimpse at what's in our transfer window. It's nothing like we projected.
We just got a picture of the cat in the fridge, and that is quite funny.
No, I wasn't kidding.
I was going to make a joke about pussy juice, but I really shouldn't say that. My excuse is I've been drinking. Anywho. Yeah, how about that transfer window there, boys? No champions switching shows, unfortunately.
That's fine. I think that's okay.
I got the full list here. I pulled it up so we can discuss who took part.
Exactly. I know 3 of them.
Okay, well, there's more than three. We'll start off with the first one. That was Braun Strowman heading from Raw to SmackDown.
Sure.
Okay.
Now we got a
Yeah.
meaty rivalry right now, and I'm so happy about it.
Yeah,
Then
I'm not mad about it.
we technically have Logan Paul going from SmackDown to Raw.
Don't care.
Okay. Then we have a swap of Alicia Taylor and Lillian Garcia swapping where they were.
That would kind of surprise me. I mean, I figure Lillian is kind of like a familiar face on Raw. Like she's kind of like a Jim Ross figure where like even people from back then recognize her.
She realistically is the voice of Raw. Like she's got to be the longest tenured, Raw announcer besides maybe Howard Finkel, but Howard Finkel was more just pay-per-views.
I mean, yeah, generally speaking, I guess I get they want to pave the way for the future too, and they want to give Alicia a chance. And especially, I feel like with a lot of the criticism she's undergone about being kind of like light Samantha Irvin, maybe this gives her a chance to spread her wings and let
Right.
Netflix and everyone else watch and see what she's about.
Yeah,
But we'll see.
With that being said, let's also put Lillian in the Hall of Fame this year.
Yeah, she wouldn't be a bad
Lillian,
one.
I feel, has earned her stripes. Yeah, I feel like she's earned it.
Next up was another commentary swap, and this was a bit of this is a bigger piece. So Michael Cole went from SmackDown to Raw, and also Pat McAfee returned to Raw. And as a result, Wade Barrett and Joe Tessitore went from Raw to SmackDown, and Corey Graves went from SmackDown to NXT.
Corey Graves going down to NXT was surprising, and he didn't seem like he was too happy about it. He could have just been working us. But yeah, I mean, Cole is the voice of WWE. Of course, they want him on Netflix. Him and Pat, say what you will about Pat, but him and Pat really are magic together. They just work together so well. And
without a doubt.
Joe's been killing it, and him and Wade together have been killing it. So
another thing with Pat
Joe,
too is like there's like added benefit for him being in the WWE circle still. Like one of the first people that Triple H thanked and the presser was Pat McAfee for all the work that he did getting connections in the city of Indianapolis for the Rumble. So I think he adds a lot more than just a voice to commentary as far as getting people on his show that is very well viewed. Also, just the contacts that he has in and around the sports community and other forms of celebrity-ist, venues. I think Pat adds a lot more.
It may not be hyperbole to say that Pat is like the biggest voice in sports.
Yeah,
that's not an argument there.
To every sport, his podcast, I'm a fan of it. He's an all-decade and possibly even a Hall of Fame punter in the NFL circles. He does College Game Day. He gets a bunch of huge names onto his podcast, sports or not sports. I mean, it makes sense to have him there, and he's gotten his city a Royal Rumble in legitimately the biggest Royal Rumble maybe ever. Definitely the biggest one with the amount of seats sold. They're gonna have a WrestleMania there. They're guaranteed a WrestleMania and a SummerSlam. Yeah. So, and we're not to me talking about it, but Indy took to wrestling when we were in Philadelphia. It didn't really feel like Mania was the point. You know what I mean? The city didn't really change too much. There wasn't. But Indianapolis, they made it a point to make it like, yeah, we got the Rumble here. Let's have a fucking party.
Hell yeah.
That's interesting.
They changed a bunch of street names, there was Tribal Chief Way. There was 26 different streets that they changed. If you flew in, when you're going through the airport, there was a make a sign station that they had put up. So
yeah, at the airport, I saw that.
Well, I learned that Indianapolis apparently is the gateway to the Midwest, so good on them for living to the gimmick, for sure.
Indy was a great host city, and I can tell you that 100%.
Anyways, back to the transfer portal here. The Wyatt Six went from Raw to SmackDown. They have yet to be seen.
It seems like Bo is hurt.
Yeah,
So
that's
Well,
it's a shame that if the head gets hurt, the leader gets hurt, that means that the other four can't do anything. I think that's a little unfortunate. Could be why they might tie somebody else to that wagon, but we'll get there a little bit later. Bailey from SmackDown to Raw. I mean, Bailey's just been everywhere though, so like, does that
yeah,
really
Bailey's
count?
putting in work.
Yeah, she has an NXT title shot next week. The Miz was moved from Raw to SmackDown. Damian Priest was moved from Raw to SmackDown.
Good for Damian. It'll be very good for him.
A-Town Down Under was moved from SmackDown to Raw.
Good for them.
Zelina Vega was moved from Raw to SmackDown.
Very, very good for her.
Yes.
R-Truth was moved from Raw to SmackDown.
Good for him.
And AJ Styles was moved from SmackDown to Raw. There might be potentially more announced this Friday for SmackDown, but there wouldn't be anything more after that. There's
AJ versus Gunther when?
not before AJ versus Logan Paul at WrestleMania.
They can do AJ versus Gunther at Elimination Chamber.
I don't think so.
I think that'd be jumping it, honestly. You're gonna bring him back just to have AJ lose and then bring on Jey Uso and then have him potentially win? I don't see that.
I guess it's possible, but
I just think it would be a fun match. I want to see AJ go for a phenomenal forearm and just get chopped out of the sky.
I mean, sure, we can save that for later, though.
That's the results of the transfer portal. No titles moved. We originally thought there was going to be a lot of titles moved, like Cody getting put on Raw. That never happened. Overall, does this impact either brand significantly enough prior to a draft, or no?
I think the moves they made were smart. It gets Damian away from the Judgment Day. Bailey, I think, is going to do better on Raw because she's, convincingly lost to Tiffany and Anaya, so that gives her a fresh start after her title reign and title chase. A-Town Down Under is pointless no matter where they are.
Hey, no.
Specifically the A-Town part.
They're probably getting split up at Vengeance Day next weekend.
Which, maybe, depending on what your speculation of the new stable that's debuting at Vengeance Day could be.
Getting Zelina to SmackDown is a genius move, even if they could put her back with Andrade or they could have her go for the U.S. title. I think she'd be a great challenger for Chelsea Green. I think the moves they made were smart. And it wasn't any big hitters besides maybe Bailey and the Wyatt Six, but I think, and Damian Priest, of course, but I think the choices they made to swap were very, very good.
Can I speak to why I feel like R-Truth was a good move in particular?
Sure.
Go right ahead.
So R-Truth obviously has been a fixture in WWE for a very long time. He's getting up there, but you wouldn't guess it because of how well he performs to this day.
The man doesn't.
No, absolutely not. And to that point, I feel like he's overdue on many of things, but particularly a WWE Championship run. I feel like he's put it out there.
It's not.
Even if it were, listen. Hey, okay. So how are we going to talk about this not happening? If I may conclude on my point, if not to erase the record of Vince McMahon's oldest WWE champion record. If we're talking on the basis of erasure of records that are, you talk about Hulk Hogan, right? Roman Reigns stepping up, taking that number 3 spot on the podium. Why not? Why is it so then unquestionable or unfathomable to think that R-Truth could maybe, who knows, win Money in the Bank? He conquers his fear of heights, or spiders, or whatever the fuck it is that year. Takes the briefcase and cashes it in. Even if the reign itself is a short one,
Oh God.
I just don't see it
Do
happening.
you not think? I mean,
I get your point,
not in this
and it
current
is.
iteration of Truth. Yeah, they still have a couple years, I think, to build
I think it completely
because
tarnishes
he's
your
not there
title
just yet.
by having a gimmick character like that win your main title. It completely tarnishes it.
Well, right now, yeah, sure, but that could all be reformed by this time next year. If they wanted to put their mind to it, if they wanted to put creative towards it, they could. I'm just saying, like, Truth has been a perfectly viable option for world champion. He's been the NWA world champion. Granted, it was 20 years ago, but there's no saying he couldn't be that again. I mean,
Yeah, but
you
Ron
could say
Killings
that,
was a serious character.
Ever
R-Truth
since,
is
yeah, ever
not.
since prior to Brock in the Bank, he's been nothing but a joke character. And like, would you ever
sure.
consider putting Santino Marella as WWE champion? Would you ever
Well,
would've had
he
consider
him
even
more.
said it
James
himself. That's not where
Ellsworth?
the money's at.
Would you ever
I
consider James Ellsworth as a WWE champion? Damian
Ellsworth,
Sandow as a
no.
WWE champion?
Well,
Like, these are all gimmick
I mean,
There's been
characters.
comedy. There has been comedy gimmick world champs before. King Booker was a comedy gimmick.
That's
but there's no
different.
reason. But you don't have to keep Truth, I guess, as a comedy character. And he's voiced as much that he probably would want to go to a more serious route again before he wraps it up. And I feel like that would be an opportune window to do that because he
Sure.
can do it.
Sure. If they make a pivot to make R-Truth a legitimate
That's what I'm saying.
story, like that isn't just a meme, I could humor it.
Yeah.
If
Yeah,
he
that's
starts
what I'm
coming
saying.
out
Now,
as
not
Ron the Truth
possible.
Killings,
Not right now. Oh, absolutely not. But like I said, they got about a year or two to make that work, and I feel like given that amount of time, they could easily do it. That's just me playing like fantasy booker though. But I mean, if you're looking at within the context of erasures of undesirable records in the WWE, that would be, I feel, a favorable step to take.
I'll
That's
agree.
fair.
I'll agree with
That's
that
fair.
point. Mainly because when Vince won that title, he won it as a fucking baby face. He was the conquering hero.
I'm not convinced
In
that
his own mind,
they'll
maybe.
change R-Truth's character. That's my point. Like, I'm not even convinced they'll
Yeah.
change R-Truth's character. Never mind, give him a title chance. So, but we'll see
Hmm.
how that goes.
Yeah.
But that covers the transfer portal. Pierce, tell us about your trip to Indy.
Yeah, please.
Well, I mean, it was a good weekend. I went with my roommate Travis. Shout out to Travis. I got him to dress up as John Cena, and people were taking pictures with him, and everybody was turning like, "Oh my God, John Cena's at WrestleCon!" Like, and we stayed at the WrestleCon hotel. If you've never been to a WrestleCon, I recommend it compared to WWE World. It's a little smaller. It's a little more low key. There's lines for the wrestlers. You got to pay for the wrestlers for their photos and whatnot. But it was a very good time. I got to meet quite a few people. I had a list of 6 that I wanted to get pictures with, and I got 5 of that 6.
Hell yeah.
Only one I didn't was Rob Van Dam, but I did get to have a little conversation with him when he was walking in the hotel. Rob Van Dam, or Bob Van Ram, as Brandon called him, drunk. He's a very nice dude. I also got to meet some creators. One of which was the Machoverse, the Randy Savage impersonator, who's all over Instagram. He followed us. Shout out to you, man. He was a super cool dude. He's down to earth. He's absolutely somebody that if he's at Mania, I'll make a point to talk to him again. Maybe we'll do some interviews. I want to do some interviews, but I just didn't get a chance to. But I also want to shout out Tantalizing Tony, the Tantalizing Tag Team YouTube channel. He's a cool dude. He wants to get us on the pod. I want to bring him on the pod as well. He's a good dude. And then Man Cave Sessions. Let me see. He direct messaged us, so I gotta find that so I could shout out his name specifically.
I believe it was Sean.
Sean from Man Cave Sessions. He's just starting out as well. He said once he gets his podcast up and running, he'd be looking into doing collabs. So I want to shout out them. All very good people, all super cool. And as for the wrestlers I met, you can see the pictures on Instagram at Ope-Eh 3-Way. But I got to meet Mark Henry and also had a conversation with him before we got to the Rumble because it was cold out. So we were just, me and Travis were just talking to him, and I was telling him how we were at WrestleMania 40 last year, and it was pretty cold out that Saturday, but we were obviously going into an indoor stadium, so it wasn't going to be too bad for us. But obviously, Lincoln Financial Field was a completely open stadium, and I believe you guys can agree with me that it was wildly uncomfortable in that stadium.
Night one was,
God.
yeah, for sure. Did you tell Mark that I predicted he would be in the Rumble match?
No.
That is a shame.
He was telling us that at WrestleMania 29, like going down that ramp in that open air stadium when it was 40 degrees out, he was covered in water. He said it was terrible. Once the match started, he was great, and then I believe it was his wife asked him who he wrestled, and he goes, "Oh, I wrestled fucking Rycrack," and oh my god, I was dying.
Rycrack.
That was great. But Mark Henry was super cool. I got to meet the current TNA World Champion, Joe Hendry.
So fucking jealous.
Did you say his name before you saw him?
I did.
Okay.
Excellent.
And then he appeared in your vision?
That's the order of events.
He was consistently the longest line at WrestleCon. It was not even. It was him or the Hardys the entire weekend. That was it.
Were they playing his music?
TNA?
No.
Okay. I thought maybe they were going for the music.
But
I had to imagine people were singing his song though.
Yes, people were. I made it a point when I talked to him. I first was like, "Hi, my name is Pierce. It's great to meet you." And I was like, "I've been following you since WCPW." And he's like, "People have been telling me that all weekend." Then you look at me, you look at Gunther, and you look at Cody, all world champions now, and it's crazy to see. And I was like,
right.
I told him like to his face, I was like, "I'm glad you are getting the adulation that you truly, truly deserve," because he has been doing this for, it has to be like 10, 12 years now. And his character hasn't really changed. And he's just been himself and wanting to do it his way. And he's getting the rightful flowers.
Yeah, man. Hendry in the mid 2010s was so far ahead of the curve as far as presentation and stuff. Like I followed him from ICW when he was, singing diss tracks about what's his nuts? He was with damn it all.
He did diss tracks on everybody. There's the I'm Drew diss track where Drew McIntyre's in the middle of the ring with his hair down laughing because he can't be like Joe Hendry was very ahead of the curve, and he's still doing the same thing, and he deserves, like I said, he deserves his flowers.
All right, who else?
Met Matt Cardona. He wasn't on my list, but I figured fuck it, and I talked to him for a bit, and I asked him, about building the brand, about the podcast, and he said just consistency, and he took the time to talk to me about it, and I really appreciate that. Cardona was very cool. I told him I hope I'd see him in the Rumble. That didn't come to fruition, but what are you gonna do?
Woo woo woo.
That'd be fair. Yeah, he'll get his someday though too. I'm pretty positive of it.
Yes. Matt Riddle. I got pictures with me, and then when my buddy was doing Cena cosplay, because Matt Riddle said he could pull off Cena, we went the next day, and he was so fucking happy to see that. And Riddle was cool as fuck. He told us a story about when he first met Cena, and they got into a little argument because he called him short, and like Riddle was a cool fucking dude. I think that was kind of like, you could just tell that dude would be chill as hell.
Riddle got into a fight with somebody backstage. I would never assume that would ever happen with him.
And then the two big ones for me over the weekend were Paul Walter Hauser, the actor who's doing indie wrestling. If you're a fan of Cobra Kai, he plays Stingray. He was in Kingdom. He was in the Inside Out 2 movie. He's an incredible actor, but he was such a nice dude. And I ran into him the next day, and he remembered my name, and we had a little conversation. It's always cool to see. And then probably the one that I wanted the most, I met Danhausen. I wish he would get featured more on AEW TV. I don't even know if he's with AEW anymore.
He is.
He just
is he?
He's
still
so
under
entertaining.
contract. Now, did you cut all your teeth this morning, Pierce? Are they all still there?
They're all here. I did not get cursed.
Wonderful. I just wanted to make sure that I was worried for you when I saw your picture. I'm like, that looks kind of like what he does when he's ready to make necklaces out of your dental work.
He was super nice. He was super down to earth. He wasn't doing the full Danhausen voice, but like me and him talked for a little bit, and he was just cool. He was cool as fuck. Every single person I met was super cool. Mark Henry is one of the nicest people I've ever met in my life.
Yeah, real homespun Texas dude. I get that from him for sure.
I will say this: when we didn't explore Indianapolis too much. We went to this restaurant called the Fountain Room for dinner. On the Friday night, I got a real nice steak. It was actually Australian Wagyu. First time ever having Wagyu, and it was delicious.
Yeah, buddy.
But we tried to go to the Superstore, and it was just packed each day. We wanted to get there early in the morning on that Saturday, and there was a line going up the stairs around a corner, around a different corner, back, and we're just like, well, it's not even worth it to try. And it was kind of set up how they had it in WWE World in a convention center, but it was like way smaller. And it's unfortunate we didn't buy anything. But it was it was super busy the entire weekend. WrestleCon was packed. The Friday was a little less busy, but the Saturday was super busy. But it was a very good weekend. We had incredible seats for the Rumble. We saw everything. I mean, it was the Mania weekend is special to me, but this was just as special because I think if there's one pay-per-view that people want to go to even more than WrestleMania, it's going to be a Royal Rumble. There's nothing like the Royal Rumble. It is the most fun event of the year for diehard and casual fans and people just getting into wrestling. You show them a Rumble first. And I lost part of my voice Saturday from screaming, and yeah, I mean, it was packed to the gills. It was a good time. Don't know if I want to do that drive day. Go ahead, Brandon.
That venue looked absolutely massive. From the drone shots they were getting, it's like, holy fuck, Pierce is somewhere in there. But
it was huge, and there was not an empty seat in that house.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, we had a shock Rumble winner for one of the winners, and then we had the most obvious Rumble winner for the other one.
Hey, we'll get to that.
I'm just saying, from the inside of the stadium perspective and outside, that is the best way to explain how the Rumbles went this year.
Oh, I guess that's our segue then.
Yeah, it was a great time, but let's do a little reviewing.
All right.
Hey, glad you enjoyed yourself, bud.
Yeah, absolutely. Kicked off the show with the Women's Royal Rumble. So, whole match went an hour and 10 minutes. I'm not going to... Should I say... I have the listings here of every statistic you need to know. Should I be listing off everybody who appeared in order, or like what are we doing?
No, we don't need to do that. We can go over the surprises, but
all right. So number one and number two, we should go with those at least. Sorry, but go ahead.
I do want to say there were two things new about the Rumble this year. Number one, they had that ticker on the bottom of the screen, which is an awesome addition.
Oh yeah,
I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, the stat callouts and things like that was very good.
Yeah, that overlay they had was really neat.
And they moved it from 90-second entries to 2 minutes. I don't know how I feel about that, but
Was it? No, I don't think it was 2 minutes.
no, it was 2 minutes. They moved
Did they?
it.
It was like consistently 2 minutes for every single person. It didn't feel like it when you were watching. Because Roman
I guess
Reigns,
that's the illusion,
Roman
right?
Reigns was a lot longer than 2 minutes. For example.
I feel like they brought Seth out like pretty quick just so they could be like, okay, let's get these four fuckers out here. You know? I mean, if that's what they're going with, I think it's all right to let shit breathe a little bit more.
Wow.
You know?
That might be what Drew's saying, but maybe not too. We'll get to that.
We'll get to Drew.
So number one and
So
number
for the
two in the
women's-
women's Rumble was Io Sky and Liv Morgan. Okay. The first person eliminated was the sixth entrant. That was BFAB, eliminated by Chelsea Green. Then from there, are we considering NXT call-ups a surprise? I don't think that's really.
I mean, I think we all expected Roxanne Perez, but all the other NXT people we didn't really expect.
So NXT call-ups included Roxanne Perez, Lash Legends, Jada Parker, which I think she was unexpected. Jordan Grace, Stephanie Vaquer, and Julia.
Yeah, I didn't expect Vaquer or Julia, so I was very hyped to see both of them.
Number 21 was, I mean, if you listen to the podcast, technically not a surprise, but that was probably the biggest surprise based on what was going on in the IWC universe, and that was a returning Alexa Bliss at 21.
That was the loudest it got in that stadium.
Absolutely
it was
deafening.
an insane pop. We were all excited to see her, and doesn't look like she's missed a step. Welcome back, Alexa.
And the number 30 entrant was a returning, which seemingly it was just for a one-time thing, but a Nikki Bella. Oh, sorry, and Trish Stratus at number 25. Thank you, Trish. So Trish Stratus
Jeez,
number
you
25.
almost forgot your Canadian queen,
Well,
man.
she'd been on somewhat recently, but Nikki Bella at number 30.
I do want to say I did call that with my surprises.
Talk about Trish or Nikki?
Trish, I did not call Nikki.
I called Nikki.
It was kind of,
but Nikki was kind of known. It wasn't that much of a surprise for her.
Yeah, I did see some.
She showed up to multiple shows prior to the Rumble, so.
If we're talking stats, the women's Rumble record got broken for the third year in a row.
Well, there's multiple records that got broken, so I'll talk about all those right now. Iron Woman, new record holder is now Roxanne Perez. She was in the match for 1 hour, 7 minutes, and 42 seconds, 47 seconds. I can't read my writing.
Breaking the record that was broken by Bayley last year, that was broken by Rhea Ripley the year before.
Yeah.
And can I say, too, if they would have continued to milk that for a little longer, she was only 4 minutes behind Gunther's record. So she could have been all time if they would have just got a little longer. But
if we're not counting greatest Royal Rumbles, because Danielson has that record at like 1 hour and 15.
Which we're not. But
yeah, I thought Saudi matches weren't outside of the multiverse or whatever.
Yeah, it didn't count in the Royal Rumble. The Royal Rumble stats. The 38 Rumbles that occurred didn't include the greatest of all.
That is correct. Yes.
Can I also say though, too, another astonishing thing? All three of the first women who entered the Rumble all went over an hour, which is insane.
They did.
Which Liv Morgan is the first person in any Rumbles ever to go over the hour twice.
Mm-hmm. A lot of records being made and broken within the Women's Rumble, for sure.
Going right into the next set here. Most eliminations in a Royal Rumble, in a single Royal Rumble, was broken. Nia Jax got 9 in this event, coming in at number 29. She also has the most women's eliminations ever. She was tied with Rhea Ripley going into the match, so it's kind of expected that she would break it. She literally broke the record without getting into the ring when she pulled Zelina Vega off the outside of the ring while she was still on the outside.
Speaking of mommy, they have sports betting for the Rumbles, which for the men's Rumble, if you bet it on the winner, fucking good job. You won a shit ton of money. Rhea Ripley was like 4th highest odds to win the Royal Rumble.
Yeah, people are dumb.
What the fuck, man?
So Nia now has the record at 29 total eliminations and had 9 in that. One other thing I wanted to quickly highlight were people that didn't get eliminations, and some of them I'm not going to list because they're not really relevant, but notable talent that did not get an elimination in this match include Intercontinental Champion Lyra Valkyria. Natalya did not get a single elimination. Alexa Bliss did not get an elimination either. Stephanie Vaquer did not, but Julia did. And known, large, intimidating presence Raquel Rodriguez also did not get an elimination.
Yeah.
Yeah, Liv's going to have her for that one.
And of course, the winner, not to my surprise at all, not to necessarily anyone's surprise, but accurately predicted by myself, number 27 was Charlotte Flair. She knocked out
very much to my dismay.
4 other women.
Yeah, and to mine. This is my reasoning. I didn't think it was time for a 2-time Women's Rumble winner. It was probably going to be Charlotte anyway to do that. It's just I would have preferred an Io. Io kind of got unceremoniously dropped out of the Rumble in that 6-person elimination from Nia.
Nia eliminated on that one hit, by the way, since you brought it up. In that one sequence there, she eliminated Io Sky, Bianca Belair, Naomi, Stephanie Vaquer, Raquel Rodriguez, all in one shot, and then teetering on the outside as a result of that, and then she knocked immediately after was Liv Morgan. So, right. Yeah. That was a pretty,
some of the biggest players in the division.
But that's also a significant clearing of house superstar moment. I don't think we've ever seen a spot where 6, never mind just 6 people, but 6 people that are arguably that impactful got eliminated at once. So I don't think that's unceremoniously, in fairness.
Well, and considering the year that Nia Jax has had too, it stands to reason that if anyone were to do that, Nia, yeah, she fits the bill.
Also called most eliminations. Thank you.
Did you? Are you sure about that?
I did.
I think we all called that, didn't we?
I could have sworn you called Jade Cargill running it back. Did you not call Jade Cargill?
I thought I called Nia Jax.
I called Nia Jax. As it happens, Don, I have the statistics in front of me. I was wondering if you were going to run all that back too, but no, I was going to also note I was going to also talk about notable omissions too from the Rumble, Jade Cargill being one of them, but I feel like we had Jade on a couple of our lists here. I know you mentioned most eliminations for her, which I would have believed that too if she were in it, but unfortunately...
I think I said Charlotte for most eliminations, if I remember correctly.
You did, yeah.
No, maybe I did say Jade. I thought I'm taking credit for something I don't deserve. Look at me. What an asshole.
Well, hey, but listen, I wouldn't have faulted you at all. If Jade would have been in that Rumble, that would have been my next runner-up besides Nia. But surprisingly, she, amongst many others, wasn't in the Rumble, and we called the Iron Woman. You and I both called Becky Lynch for that.
Yeah.
And where the fuck was she?
I said fucking Lyra, and she was.
She got second. She was the second woman eliminated from that match by Ivy Nile.
They're feuding, so
yeah, the only women that had multiple eliminations were Jax with 9, Charlotte with 4, and then Liv and Chelsea both had 2 eliminations.
Yeah, pretty big gulf there.
But omissions, Becky Lynch, she probably just doesn't want to come back yet. you guys were saying AJ Lee. Brandon's been saying it for like 6 months.
She's not coming
Yeah,
back.
I have.
She's not coming back.
It's up to her if she wants to come back. Her back was fucked when she left. If she just wants to stay home and watch that weird looking dog, let her watch it.
Are we talking shit about Larry on our podcast?
I'll talk shit about Larry on our podcast.
Wow.
Larry's just an odd looking dog. I don't know what you want. Like, you know, he's an odd looking.
This is not an animal slandering podcast.
You were slandering your animal for being in your fridge 30 minutes ago.
Because he wants to eat what's in the fridge, and he's looking at me because I'm
Listen,
talking about him.
I will slander Batista whenever I want to. That is my prerogative.
Welcome now inside this pit of danger. Greatest entrance theme of all time.
All right, so you guys you were in the middle of hating on Charlotte Flair, though.
Yeah.
Yes.
Look, it's just a boring winner. It was boring when she won in 2020 when it should have probably been Shayna Baszler. If she would have won in 2021, it would have been fucking boring. If Ronda wasn't coming back, everybody was thinking it was going to be Sasha Banks' time to win the Rumble, but it was probably going to be fucking Charlotte. She's just, my thing is that, yeah, Donnie, I get what you say. She is the star of stars. She's the greatest women's wrestler ever. You know, arguably.
Don't tell anybody that on social media because everybody will shit themselves in trying to say otherwise.
Arguably, she's the greatest ever.
Continue.
But
arguably,
my thing is that she shows up from returns and is like, "Hey, you know that title you have? It's mine now." But she just gets title shots by existing.
And did I not call that fucking sequence?
Did I
not call that fucking sequence?
Go ahead. You guys get it all out, and then I'm going to stand up for Charlotte Flair.
That's fine. You stand up for Charlotte. You hashtag stand up for Charlotte. I'm going to say this. It's fucking like basic arithmetic. I called it in the chat. I says, here comes Charlotte, and Nia did her thing where she swept the field. I says, here it comes. Charlotte eliminates Nia. Charlotte wins the fucking Rumble. In sequence, granted, it wasn't that hard. You probably could have called it on a coin toss. But I fucking called it all the same. Like, she's got to, move the immovable object. She gets it out of the way, and then here comes the young, pugnacious Roxanne trying to steal the spotlight, but that didn't last long. It could have lasted longer. Then she would have broken the overall length in time for Rumble. But we can't have Roxanne have that. Oh, fuck you. It's Charlotte Flair time, bitches. And it was.
It's such a boring winner, and she got rightfully booed on Raw when she was trying to cut a babyface promo because nobody wants to see Charlotte win shit.
Yeah, okay, I've heard enough now. I've heard enough. Who would be the most impactful person for Tiffany Stratton to beat at WrestleMania?
Probably Nia because she hasn't actually beaten her yet.
No,
Roman Reigns.
No. That is not true. Who, realistically, we all know that the answer to that question is Charlotte Flair. There is no bigger moment for Tiffany Stratton at WrestleMania than to beat the literal blonde gold standard in Charlotte Flair.
She's going to face Shelton Benjamin?
Look, you can be mad about
crossing the line,
but the result of this match wasn't about Charlotte winning the Rumble. What it's about is the story that it's going to lead to of Tiffany beating Charlotte at WrestleMania, right? So this is my like big thing, and this is why I'm also going to have a problem with what comes later, is that the winner of the Royal Rumble needs to be able to tell an engaging story. We need a reason why we should care that the Royal Rumble winner won. And by all accounts, we are going to have a very good story and a very good reason. And that reason isn't her winning. It's her then losing to Tiffany Stratton in 2.5 months.
If she wins at WrestleMania,
then you can take everything that I said out the window and fuck Triple H. Fuck if Charlotte Flair has creative control over her character. I doubt that she does. fuck her too. But the entire purpose of her winning this match is to put over Tiffany Stratton.
If she wins, Donnie, I want you to buy me. If she wins that match, I'll bet you a beer. I
Deal.
think I got a
Deal.
weird feeling she's gonna win.
You think Charlotte's gonna win? I know
yeah.
Charlotte's gonna lose. So I will gladly take you up on that.
I mean, we've all, I think, been in that position where we've said Charlotte is going to lose and hoped we were confident on that, right? But we've been wrong in the end.
Because she always fucking wins.
She's not winning this one.
She's got a record to chase too, you know. She's got to show up her dad the same way that Cena does. And she might even do it before him at the rate she's going.
She's not beating Tiffany Stratton. If she beats Tiffany Stratton, I will gladly buy you a beer, Pierce. And I will gladly come on this podcast and say I was wrong. Triple H still doesn't know how to book women's wrestling. But here I am saying there's a reason why she won, and it's so that she could lose in 2 months. Because there's no better person to lose to her, to lose to Tiffany, than Charlotte Flair.
In the world of perfect sense, I completely agree with you.
Yep, I do as well. However,
but this Royal Rumble has proven, and we'll get to that too. But
this is
Charlotte. She's chasing records too.
It's the best story you can tell. And if you want to even put Charlotte's record chasing in there, that's the best story you could tell for both of them. So do we get
potentially
the result?
If you're smart about it.
So do we get then the result that people want, or do we get the result that people don't want? We still have to wait and see. But
right.
Book it. Charlotte versus Tiffany at WrestleMania. Tiffany wins. Y'all can stop bitching. She was the right winner. Realistically speaking, too, there's not really many other. So Pierce, you said you didn't want to see a second-time winner. So who does that leave left as realistic candidates to win the Rumble? Nia Jax, Io Sky, Liv Morgan.
Trish Stratus could have won.
Trish Stratus is not going to win the Royal Rumble.
Bailey.
No, Bailey won it last year.
Yeah, she can win it 2 years in a row. There was a story behind that.
According to Pierce's logic. So I'm trying to shoot a hole in that.
Pierce, come on now.
Pull up the participants.
Do you want more of a Liv Morgan revenge tour? Did you not have enough of that for the last 9 months? Nia Jax, she was literally just champion as well.
I was fine with the revenge tour until she started losing constantly.
Well, if she had won, she would have probably challenged Rhea Ripley. Io Sky, I'll give you some credit for, but I've already said Io's winning Elimination Chamber. We've already seen the seeds planted for her to win the Elimination Chamber as well. So, just
you said she couldn't carry from the Rumble.
To Jordan. Bring her in and have her win the Rumble.
Who?
Jordan Grace.
No.
Not this soon.
Too soon. That's like saying that Joe Hendry should have won the Royal Rumble.
I believe.
No, you don't.
I believe. Roxanne Perez.
No,
strap the rock
too soon.
Roxanne.
Too soon. She's not done her story in NXT yet.
And then, if you jump the shark with Roxanne Perez, then you have to go several years in trying to up the ante and, invest in her further and make her better. It turns into almost like a Charlotte situation where,
she has an NXT title match next weekend.
What can she do except win more world titles? She's, 22? 23?
Something like that.
Yeah, so you win her first world title at WrestleMania. That is the upper echelon of what you want to accomplish in pro wrestling. What else do you do with her?
Realistically, those three. You have 4 options. You could have had a returning Alexa Bliss also win the Royal Rumble potentially.
Right. There were a bunch of options. I just think they chose the boring one.
None of them tell as good of a story in a WrestleMania main event than Charlotte Flair does.
I'll agree to disagree.
I would challenge that Nia Jax doesn't tell a better story against Tiffany Stratton. It is a story, not a better one. Liv Morgan certainly doesn't tell a better story between those two. We've already been through one of them before, and the other one won't. Io, not going to be as good of a story, even though we're still going to get that match anyways with her and Rhea. And Alexa, no, we're not going to get a better story there either. So ho hum, we
And
get our result.
the good news in Io's case is that if she wins the chamber, it's a shorter window of time at which she has to carry a story. Like to your point, to your criticism earlier, Don, you were saying Io can't carry from the Rumble the way that a Liv Morgan could, or any other woman who possesses a modicum of character could.
Yes.
So, I mean, if we get Io Rhea at WrestleMania still, at least it's only a smaller window of time that we have to kind of
And I mean, it's really
deal
less
with the promos.
it's less 2 days because we already started where she got attacked backstage, and Rhea had a reason to save her, and she screwed it up. So they already planted the seeds for that there, but it's not really involved
Sure.
any dialogue.
They planted
Right.
a ton of seeds for matches that may not happen at WrestleMania this year.
Yeah, we'll
So
get
far.
in,
And
we're
that's just
definitely
it.
going to get into that too.
The seeds have just been planted. Nothing's flourished yet. There's nothing expected to grow. We're just kind of getting her started.
Yes.
So I feel like that's as good a spot as any.
Now, before we move on into the next two matches, or the next three matches, do we want to just take a quick moment to speculate who we have? One participant confirmed. Do we want to speculate who's going to be in the women's elimination chamber? Because their qualifying matches will be done pretty close to by the time we're on next week.
Bailey, Io.
Io is the only one confirmed right now. And then the other
Maybe
qualifying
Bianca.
matches we have currently, let's see, Elimination Chamber 2025 qualifying matches. Let me Google this really quick. Make sure we have all the correct qualifying matches listed here. I'm Googling this as we go. So Bailey versus Lyra is announced for next Monday, and we do not have any qualifying matches booked for this Friday yet, for the women at least.
Well, I can see Bailey winning her match because Lyra has not been doing shit since she won that title.
I think that's going to be kind of a dusty finish because I think Ivy's going to interfere something.
All right, so we have Io, Bailey, and then four more unknowns. Any stabs on those? Oh, sorry, Liv and Bailey. Excuse me.
I was going to say, yeah, Liv got in there.
Liv and Bailey. Yeah. Sorry, Io is probably going to be the last chance qualifier. Do we all agree there?
Yeah.
Liv. I got to believe Becky's going to be one of them.
They have to return Becky and have her win a qualifying match by then. I don't think Becky's going to be one of them.
No?
I would assume it's probably going to be the tag champs. And I don't know. Last one could realistically be a toss-up.
I think Alexa Bliss is going to be one.
Yeah. I think that's fair.
That'll likely lead to her match, whether it's singles or tag match against Liv at WrestleMania.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a solid pick.
The only other person, I don't know if I like both tag team partners being in that match. So that could give you Nia Jax. I don't really know that there's much else you would consider outside of that. I don't know if you. I mean, Jade Cargill is probably going to be. Jade Cargill is going to have some influence over whether one or both of them are in the match, or when they're actually in the match, what happens. You would have to assume. And you'd also probably assume that Bianca and Naomi lose their tag titles by then, around that same time.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Liv and Raquel probably.
Yeah. All right. So that gives us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 names as it is, maybe 7. Like we have a pool basically of seven names, if you count Nia Jax in there, which she's at least a credible option. So not really much of a selection there. Like there's a lot of like middle depth and middle lower depth. Not a lot of still like top. These are people that you would expect to be in the match.
Right.
So, We'll see how that shakes out. I'm assuming there'll be a qualifying match on Friday, unannounced who that's going to be. Next up is the 2 out of 3 falls tag match for the WWE Tag Team Championships. All 3 falls totaled a grand total of 14 minutes. And DIY successfully retained by defeating the Motor City Machine Guns.
Yeah, they were not given enough time, unfortunately. I still think they had a very, very good match. You know, it's 2 great teams. I think the crowd was a little dead for it as somebody in. I was popping for everything because they were doing. I asked for it, and Motor City used 2 finishers that are not Skull and Bones. They did get the pin with Skull and Bones. But, yeah, I thought this was a fine match. Who are they? Montez and Angelo Dawkins turned heel.
But then they also attacked the heels. So it's like they attack the faces and the heel. So are they heel or are they just mad?
They're heel. I think they're heel at this point. They want the titles.
Well, the heels are the champs. Yeah, the heels are the champs. So
we want.
You can call it justified anger.
You know,
they just want the smoke.
Yeah, true. I thought it was a good match. I wish they would have been given more time, but I thought they did well with what they had.
Yeah, the placement of that match is tough because any match after a Rumble match is tough. And I will still say they haven't built these guys' characters enough for people to give a shit about them to get good pops for them. So it's kind of a lose-lose situation there in there. Did the best with what they could, I guess.
Well, the thing about that too is like DIY are the character team in that match. Like they are the guys who are, taking the cheap routes. They're the guys who are using the dirty tricks. Motor City Machine Guns really, I feel like, lived up to their moniker in the match. Like, granted, it was only 15 minutes to work, but it was such a high speed technical matchup. I feel like they lived up to their expectation of what I could have expected from them. They got all their shit in the time that they were given, and they had a bomb ass power bomb sliced bread combo in the second fall or the third fall there, which fucking made me pop.
Made in Detroit. That's one of their finishes, but it was a top.
That's what that was. Yeah, it was fucking great. I loved it. And then too, DIY had that sweet little tactic they did where it looked like Tommaso tagged Johnny, but then Johnny swiped his hand out at the last second, made it look like he got tagged. And then Tommaso pulled a fucking wool over the eyes trick and got that first fall. That was really fucking sweet. That being said, I feel like, does it suck that they got only 15 minutes to work? Yes. But if you can expect 2 teams in the WWE right now to get their shit in within a 15-minute time frame, it's those 2. They worked the best in those conditions. They got a tag title match on a PLE for the first time since we were at a PLE. Collectively,
I've been to a PLE since then.
A men's tag. Oh, which one were you at? Oh, you were at Money in the. Oh my God, you were at Money in the Bank.
I was at Money in the Bank.
Oh, yes, you were. Collectively. Sorry, I meant to denote collectively. But I enjoyed it. I thought it was very smartly booked. I thought that you had to intently watch the match to really appreciate it. And again, it's just what you would expect from
people at a Royal Rumble event are going to do.
And that's to Pierce's point, is where it was kind of at an inopportune point in the card where it fell. And to the point that you brought up too, Pierce, and I feel like we've all kind of shared this sentiment where the Rumble, I feel like this year is hopefully the last year where the Rumble is just one night. I hope they can spread it out and distribute the energy a little bit. So you have the women's Rumble in one, the men's in the other. I feel like they've both earned the right to be on their own nights distinctively. And I feel like it spares you of that energy sap because, there was a lot of energy that went into the women's Rumble.
Yeah, to the point of
a long Rumble too.
Yeah, the 2 nighters here. I don't necessarily know that something like SummerSlam needs to be 2 nights, and we know they're going to 2-night schedule.
I thought that's an odd choice. It doesn't make sense to me. But Rumble should be 2 nights. That just it's
when you have a match, it's going to be an hour plus. It makes sense to kind of, if you can split that up over 2 nights, it'll help.
Right.
Maybe you
Definitely.
have last chance Rumble qualifying matches on your first night too to try and fill the card a little bit on at least the first night, or some, and then you have a grudge match the second night from people who got into some nonsense in their match in the Rumble or something. I don't know. Like there's ways around it that you can.
You can build stories through the 2 nights. That's what
Yeah,
they
so
did
you
at
can.
WrestleMania this year. There was a fucking cliffhanger at WrestleMania, you know?
Yeah, so you can still double book talent for both nights while, you know, still filling out both cards, and then still have extra talent too that aren't in the Rumble that, you know, like the tag match we had here, like the championship matches. You have one championship match each night. Um, but anyways, speaking of championship matches, that goes into our next match, which is a ladder match for the undisputed WWE Championship, and the last time I'll be able to say the Winged Eagle Championship. Cody Rhodes defeated Kevin Owens in 25 minutes.
This is
A lot more brutal than
match.
a lot more brutal than I thought it was going to be. I will say that.
You thought it was more brutal than you expected it to be?
In my perspective, yeah.
I would agree with that.
You guys thought this was more, like, considering the build up to this feud, you thought that this was more brutal than you expected it to be?
It was a blood feud, but the fucking spots and the bumps that they took, they were just. It was just brought shivers to your spine, man. These guys beat the fuck out of each other, and Kevin Owens, I don't know why he likes taking the worst ladder bumps possible.
Oh my God.
Well, these are two guys that just believe in the love of the game, you know? Like, I'm a little surprised that you guys are saying this is more violent than you thought it would be, because, like, literally, Kevin Owens and Cody Rhodes are two guys that you know are going to bust their, like, Kevin Owens will just do, like, sentons off of everything. Literally, he wanted to jump off a pirate ship.
Could have expected
Right.
it, but it was
and
still,
Cody Rhodes and his torn pec, never mind, like, all the other shit that he's done in his career. Like, I'm actually surprised that you two have that thought. Like,
Part of my perspective is derived from the fact that it's Cody Rhodes coming up on Rumble season, and they weren't going to try to slay their golden goose in, I don't want to call it a mud show match, but like
this was an ROH ladder war in a WWE event. This is what
minus the package pile driver on the ladder, which I so desperately wanted, but I didn't get.
You weren't.
Well, we got a package pile driver on TV Monday, so let's be happy.
There's the one thing that I didn't get, but I got a Fisherman Buster, which was a pretty good consolation prize.
Yeah, that was.
They took some sick ass bumps off. They took some ugly ass bumps on those ladders, man. Both of them.
The most insane Alabama slam I have ever seen in my life.
Putting him through a rung of the ladder, virtually, like, almost decapitating the poor man.
I have never.
I think Cody Rhodes listened to the podcast and heard a shout out his old tag team partner.
I have never popped for an Alabama slam in my life until Saturday.
It was a horrifying Alabama slam, and the way that he landed and his head just disappeared, it was a beautiful shot. The shot after the match of Cody fucking standing over him while he's getting helped by Sammy and all the medical personnel. Like, everything about this match, it was a damn near perfect, brutal match. And I think, Brandon, you probably agree with me, this was closer to ladder war than a ladder match in WWE.
Yeah, I think that's what they were going for. And kudos to Kevin Owens for getting a little creative with that shit too. MVP of the match was Little Ladder. I wanted to see him do some stupid shit off that little ladder so bad. And it looked like he was going to. Did a little wiggle off the ladder, just got down. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? I paid money for this.
So bad.
It would have been so fun.
I want to see some VLC bullshit.
Kevin Owens he's serious business right now. He's no fun. Is Kevin Owens.
So to your point, we did see Sami Zayn come out during this match. He did absolutely nothing.
And Kevin Owens let him know that.
Which takes us to what happened on Monday after his main event match on Monday after he lost. We'll get into that in a bit as well. But he was attacked by Kevin Owens after that match and given a package pile driver.
Finally.
Finally, Sami
I
Zayn
witnessed
was given
that.
a package pile driver, or finally just like a package pile driver?
Well, fine. Yes, the latter. But if anyone was going to take a package pile driver besides Cody, it was going to be Sam. That is right in his nest right there.
Package pile driver on TV. That's really it.
It's like coming home.
Cody wins.
Like,
We'll get into what happens for Cody after this, but they did also say he received numerous injuries and may not be in ring for a while, aka probably writing him off in ring competition until WrestleMania.
Kayfabe.
Yeah, I just gives him an excuse not to perform at Elimination Chamber, as somebody else also has that excuse, which we'll get into again in a bit.
yes, I was about to say.
And that does take us to the main event, which was the men's Royal Rumble match. Number 1 and number 2 into this match was Rey Mysterio and Penta. That was my like second pick when we were like talking about intro merchants.
I hate you so much for that.
Well, as soon as Brandon brought up intro merchants leading off a Rumble, and you guys wanted to go with Jey Uso, I was like, hold on. What about Penta? And then who's got to go with Penta? Rey Mysterio. And sure enough,
I did call Penta number 2, though. I did call that.
You sure did.
Triple H, listener of the podcast, knew to put Rey Mysterio and Penta to start the match. So, besides that, not a lot of surprises. We're going to skip down here. First person eliminated was Carmelo Hayes. He was number 4 in the match, eliminated by Braun Breaker. Carmelo Hayes came out hot, by the way. I think he kind of came out absolutely flying and doing really well, and then just got unceremoniously booted by Braun Breaker.
He got hit with the Steiner spear and then just died. Yes. That happens.
Yes. Who else that happens to is the first and one of the few surprises in this match. Akira Tozawa is supposed to be number 8. He was attacked by Carmelo from when he got eliminated, and Triple H had to get a replacement, and the only person in Gorilla that could be a replacement was IShowSpeed. So IShowSpeed was number 8 in the Rumble. He actually eliminated Otis.
Yep.
With the help of Braun Breaker. And so he started celebrating with Braun, and then Braun started to run the ropes. And we all know what happens when Braun Breaker runs the ropes.
People die, and Speed died.
I show death is what happened there. Like,
it was
very surprisingly still remained in his Crocs. That man was in Crocs.
He got obliterated on that spear. Good God.
Every single angle that keeps getting posted, I have watched it so many fucking times. Shout out to IShowSpeed. You are a fucking trooper for agreeing to do that.
And then he got when he did get thrown out, he got caught by Otis, and because Otis was knocked out by him, Otis decided to flip him over the announce table when he then cut his leg open pretty bad, if you saw the clips of that from backstage. So, yeah, shout out Speed. That was a hell of a debut into a match. So it's not his first debut to WWE. He was a Prime Bottle at WrestleMania 40. But
he took an RKO on a table.
He sure did. But, yeah, that spear was insane.
Yeah.
I feel like Braun's a made man. I mean, not like he didn't have potential before, but he's certainly a made man after this.
Next surprise after that was Joe Hendry at number 15.
Said his name, he appeared.
Wasn't really a surprise. Awesome moment. Not really a surprise.
It was an awesome moment, though. The TNA World Heavyweight Champion was in the Royal Rumble. He was one of the most over people of the entire card. I was singing his song. Everybody else was singing his song after they popped, and it was awesome.
Very, very ingratiating for a very long-time fan of TNA like myself.
And very surreal. Had some issues with his zipper because something was hitting it.
I mean, you weren't there, so you ain't gotta know.
Hold on. Let me go back to the live chat that we had. I couldn't chat that well. The service in the stadium was not great. Oh, here it is. My dick.
Big meaty man slapping me.
Well, should have seen that one coming. Phrasing.
I mean,
phrasing.
to be fair, there were a lot of moments in that Rumble I could have spoke to with that particular notion. And we'll get to that one, I'm sure, coming up next.
There's one for sure, but we'll get to that. The last surprise of entrant in this was AJ Styles returning from injury at number 21.
His old theme
song, which is the better of the two.
Yes.
Brandon, that new theme song sucks so bad.
No. I disagree.
No, you're in the minority.
I disagree.
Hot Take Emporium was closed, and you should have had that for the Hot Take Emporium.
Listen, quarter two's gonna melt your face off.
We needed an hour and a half of TNA content, but not for AJ Styles apparently. So
to prime you up, because I'm going to be talking a lot more TNA. By the way, listeners, be aware on the YouTube page.
We're trying to attract listeners, not deter them. Come on, man.
Well, hey,
Phenomenal
that's true.
Phenomenal is the best AJ theme, and that includes Learn to Fly or whatever his.
It's a great theme. We're not talking about AEW for deterring fans. But that's
we do shows for the sickos sometimes.
It's a great theme. So
yeah, speaking of that, Mark Davis is now back with the Don Callis family. So thanks, Tony.
Around the circle we go. Okay, so that's like it for surprise entrance. Number 30 was Logan Paul. Very disappointing. I will say it again. I do not like people that are already confirmed to be in the Rumble to be number 30. Please stop doing that.
I agree.
Yeah, that's fair.
Most eliminations was a 3-way tie between Braun Breaker, Jacob Fatu, and Roman Reigns.
Well, we called it technically. We all did.
Yes.
Because Jacob probably should have gotten used to it in general, but I mean, he showed up for the Rumble. He had all those spots of teasing future matches, and it was great.
How many dick teases did we get in that Rumble?
Oh, Roman looked at him and said, "You fucking acknowledge me," and Jacob just hit him. So there you go.
Michael Cole said this will be a future WrestleMania main event, and I have no reason to doubt him.
Yeah, I agree. That match will fucking keep the NOIs fucking fed for years.
Great. That's just what we need.
And for another WrestleMania main event potential, Jacob versus Braun Breaker, they didn't even touch each other in that Rumble, I don't think.
Meat.
But they had. It's gonna happen. They're keeping those guys that kind of separate for a reason.
Well, Jacob Fatu was also eliminated right before John Cena came out, and they showed Jacob Fatu twice on the camera during John Cena's intro. So
you got to believe there's something coming of that as well. I can't believe that Cena would go an entire calendar with Fatu on the roster and they not cross paths at least one time. Especially with the momentum that Jacob's starting to build now.
Have him beat Cena for the title.
I could see that potentially happening.
Fucking strap Fatu. They're now that he's just he's off the leash, he's all gas, no brakes. Yada Amin, etc. With him, he's getting even more over than he already was because they're allowing him to talk. And usually with these fucking big bruisers and these big fucking enforcers, most of them can't talk. For an example, Roman Reigns, as soon as he left the Shield, could not cut a promo to save his life. But Jacob is just this fucking anomaly of a wrestler.
Oh, absolutely. He's got all the tools.
Other guys with multiple eliminations here really quick. Jey Uso and John Cena both had 3, and CM Punk, Damian Priest, and Logan Paul each had 2. Notable people without any eliminations include Rey Mysterio, Sheamus, Drew McIntyre had 0 eliminations. U.S. champion
Drew.
Shinsuke Nakamura had 0 eliminations. Seth Rollins had 0 eliminations. Sami Zayn had 0 eliminations.
I would say Drew and Seth are probably the biggest omissions for eliminations, but you can only do so much in one match.
Yes. But for Drew and Seth to get 0 eliminations was an interesting choice.
And there
Nevertheless.
was this whole thing with Drew's elimination that it kind of got shuffled and shit got mistimed. And
So Drew got, to this point, Drew got kind of rush eliminated by Damian Priest. This
it
was
was very
happening.
unceremonious.
This was at this. That's a good use of unceremonious. In fairness, I gave you crap for it when it came to Io Sky, but no, this was actually a very unceremonious elimination.
It was unceremonious for Io, and it was both. It's an okay. You know what, Donnie? Shut up.
No, anytime 6 people get knocked out at once, it's ceremonious. So eat it. But yeah, so he was kind of
He's nuts.
rushed out by Damian Priest. This was immediately after Logan Paul came in, was getting his shit in pretty quickly, and LA Knight tried to interfere with that. So the story goes online. Drew McIntyre was very pissed off at LA Knight, who was hogging the spotlight as number 29 entrant and wasn't giving him an opportunity to do his spot to get eliminated. What did you guys see?
I see both sides. I see both sides in that. I mean, commentary was going over LA Knight for sure. And obviously from SummerSlam, there was that bit between him and Logan Paul that may have gone unresolved from that time. But like, I mean, it's the Rumble, and if there's any time to get your shit in, especially at number 29, and especially considering the star power that's already there, I can see from LA Knight's perspective wanting to get something in. If something happens to the misfortune of Drew getting tossed out, I don't think it's necessarily fair to blame LA Knight exclusively. There were multiple parties who were involved in that, and there could have been some better form of collaboration in that. Based on what I saw, I don't know that it's entirely fair to blame LA Knight, but could this set up for an angle in the future? I hope so.
That's what I think is we've been worked by Drew being mad at something that happened before. And it seems like a lot of favorable people have gone to Raw, maybe not so many on SmackDown. So I wouldn't be shocked if Drew McIntyre versus LA Knight on SmackDown is a elimination chamber qualifying match as a result of this.
I will also say this: if Drew is mad at his WrestleMania planned match, which is saying it's going to be Damian, all respect to Damian, he's an incredible performer. Drew is not fucking wrong at all. He had the year of his career besides when he was WWE champion. Honestly, I think his stock raised this year more than when he was the champ.
Well, I mean, there was a crowd, so that helped.
And Donnie okay.
That's his whole story, is that he couldn't get the fanfare he deserved because there was no crowd.
Let me talk. And Drew raised his stock, had the feud of the year last year, and showed why he should be a main event player for the rest of his career. And you put him in a feud with Damian Priest, it is kind of a bit of a demotion. I think if the plan is Punk, Rollins, Reigns, throw Drew in that match because it makes a whole hell of a lot more sense, and Drew gets another main event and Punk finally gets his. I think that's a perfect 4-way if you're going to run a 4-way.
And it's viable because I can't think of a situation where you had 4 men who had as much heat with each other than those 4. Like, their stories are all so deeply interwoven and interconnected. You could run that 4-way and it'd be hot throughout. And there's not many instances in history where I think you could say that.
Devil's advocate, to say that Damian Priest is not a top billed star right now, I think is unfair to Damian.
I'm not saying he's not a top
Well,
build
you
star.
said
I
it. You
think
literally
he
said it
is
was a
one of
downgrade. No, you said it was a downgrade. So
for the year
he was
compared to the years. I would say Drew is an A tier star and Damian is like a B plus.
I mean,
And
Damian was world champion.
He's a B plus because of the Finn feud. As sad as that makes me.
That's your opinion. He was champion for months. He had a not a bad title reign. It wasn't the best title reign ever, but he had
he had a fairly good title reign.
He had a fairly good title reign. They had to tie up loose ends with Finn. So whether or not you like the fact that he feuded with Finn, he had to tie up those loose ends with Finn Balor. Like that had to happen.
Was fine with the feud with Finn. It was not a good feud. Well, hold on. This is not an Ope two-way. Brandon, what are your thoughts on this?
On Damian versus Drew.
Yep.
So I'm of the opinion that I can see it both ways, right? So yes, Damian should get a match where he gets another opportunity to prove that he continues to belong within the upper echelons, as he's been working hard to do, as he's proven he's had a chance to prove he could do it as world champion. That being said, Drew is leaving a lot of unresolved story on the table by not participating in this potential match with Punk and Rollins and Reigns.
Look,
he's carried grudge with Reigns since Wales. He's carried grudge with Rollins arguably since, not as much grudge with Rollins per se, but they've had their rivalry, not as personal. It's clearly not as personal as with CM Punk, which in spite of that Hell in a Cell blow off, Drew ain't letting shit go, clearly. So, to his benefit or his detriment.
Again, is that probably the better match to have? Yes. My point was to not be so saying that Damian is a downgrade when Damian's clearly a top list player and he will probably be world champion again within this year or the next.
Without Punk's involvement, I could see them having an excellent match. They had an excellent match in Scotland, and I think they have all the potential to run it back again. My contention is the fact that McIntyre is leaving, again, a lot of unresolved conflict on the table. And if you want to build McIntyre up next year, see how he fits in the picture with everything else going on that's potentially going to be in development, we can run that too. Like, there's a lot of longevity in this with Drew McIntyre. And he doesn't have to blow it all off this year at WrestleMania, right? Like, we've been impatient with that before. Like, I feel like maybe one of us or some of us had the idea that Cody winning at WrestleMania 39 would have been the way to go. But clearly it wasn't. So maybe there's something to be said for that. Maybe there's a benefit to having Damian versus Drew this year at WrestleMania if that's the route they go. That being said, there's a lot that's being left on the table this year that's not getting resolved or addressed even if Drew is not involved with Roman and or Seth and or Punk.
So let's talk about those three right now, because that's probably the natural progression here. Those are arguably, outside of John Cena, the three favorites going into 3 of the 4 favorites to win the Royal Rumble, being those 3 guys. Your opinion on them is your own, but like, if you look at odds lists, CM Punk was the favorite, I do believe, and Roman and Seth were.
Cena was the favorite, and then followed by Punk.
Yeah, Cena, Punk, probably Roman was third, and I don't know if Seth was fourth, but I'm sure he was probably near the top. So CM Punk eliminated both Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns at the same time because they were just giving each other hell, as they would be expected to do in that spot. And then immediately after, Logan Paul eliminated CM Punk. This led to a skirmish outside of the ring where Punk and Seth started brawling.
Well, no. First, it started with Roman looking at Punk and saying, "We teamed together a month ago," which is kind of funny because it's like the Royal Rumble, dude. It's every man for himself. You've won this match. You should fucking know that.
Yeah, just tell that to Sami Zayn.
And then Seth hit a stomp with both feet to Roman to knock him out, and
Oh,
then
that happened
immediately
first. Sorry,
just was
thank
like, immediately just looked at Punk, and then they started fighting, and then
Like an M. Bison signature.
So thank you for calling the order on that out correctly, because I should not have missed that ordering. And my God, that was, I'm going to say it, that's the best Seth Rollins stomp I've ever seen. Ever. I know he's had
It
some
was
memorable.
personal.
I know he's had some memorable
Personal.
stomps in his career. And a memorable.
that was the most vicious that I've seen.
That was insane.
There's something about 2 feet that makes it a super finisher.
Yeah. That was insane.
Well, the fact that it's 2 and not 1.
And then he
It
stomped
was
him
just-
again after being broken up with CM Punk. He stomped him when he was on the stairs. 1 foot.
Yep.
But
And now
still.
Roman is quote unquote hurt. Blah 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 blah. It's just-
AKA Roman will not be at Elimination Chamber. Sadly.
Just in time for WrestleMania.
Yeah.
well, we don't know that just yet.
I think it's fair to assume that the likelihood of him being at the Elimination Chamber, in the match at the very least, is pretty low. Given his injuries, out for an indefinite amount of time, and then the promo that Seth Rollins cut on Monday night as well.
Which was a heel promo. Seth is a heel.
No, he's not. He hates
Yes, he
Roman. That doesn't make him a heel.
He then started trying to gaslight Sammy, saying that he needs to beat CM Punk because of how bad of a person he is.
Which
Yeah,
I feel
which
like
is-
most people from that era around CM Punk at that time could attest to.
Yeah.
I think
mean,
Kevin
Seth
Rollins had that
think
opinion while
Seth-
he was a face. Did he not?
I think Seth has just subtly turned heel. And
Eddie Kingston had that opinion. He didn't turn heel.
yeah, well, Eddie Kingston is just also Eddie Kingston. There's a
Yeah,
big difference.
He's a
between
bum.
Eddie Kingston and
No, Seth Rollins
Well,
is a known
I mean-
hater. Seth Rollins is a known hater, but like Seth hated Roman, and when Seth was very clearly a face.
I think this was a subtle heel turn. But
We'll see.
I could,
We'll see. It's
if
possible.
if I'm wrong, I'll admit it. But I think it was just a subtle heel turn.
I think he's been making subtle heel turns over the last little while, but I don't think that's the definitive moment where like, oh, well, he's heel now, because he's literally been doing that the entire time, taking shots at
Mhm.
CM Punk whenever he can, right? That's all I mean by it. He could very well end up heel by the end of this story. I don't think this is necessarily the defining moment for it. I think that's still to come. But we'll see. So that is where this speculated triple threat / fatal 4-way / whatever is, because none of these 3 guys ended up winning the Royal Rumble. Before we get into who did win the Royal Rumble, I just do want to call out the Iron Man was Penta. He was in there for just over 42 minutes.
Even if he may or may not have accidentally gotten eliminated right away.
I
But-
don't think he did. I
Did
tried.
both he? I tried to run that back. I don't think both hit. It was very, very fucking close.
The right foot did. I don't think the left foot did either. I think it was very close.
No,
Like,
I think
when
it
you
was
watch
very
it back,
close.
don't look at screenshots because the screenshots are blurry. When you actually watch it back, it did not look like it touched.
Looks like one.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was the right choice for Iron Man. They see something big in Penta, as they fucking should. He's fucking Penta. He fucking showed up in this match, showed out. He looked great. He teased a bunch of matches as well. Yeah, I get it, Brandon. He does Cerro Miedo a lot, but he's been doing it.
Listen. Oh, yeah. Oh, wait, nothing. That's what it's going to be in a couple of weeks if he keeps doing that shit.
Ricky Starks must be licking his chops, by the way, watching Penta's fanfare. Guy like Ricky Starks, who's like just dying to get out of AEW and into WWE.
Oh, yeah.
After his contract ends and then he can sign, he'll probably be NXT champion by the end of the year.
Yeah, he's licking.
Oh,
his
he'll get
chops
the
for
Ethan
this.
Page. He'll get the Ethan Page push without a fucking doubt in my mind.
Yeah,
But I think he's going to hold it longer than Ethan. I
I
think
do
he's
too.
going to
Yeah,
hold it. He'll probably stand and deliver next year.
I have no reason to doubt.
So that covered all of like the statistical stuff mostly. The winner of the match, and
Ugh,
headlining WrestleMania
ugh,
is main event Jey Uso.
ugh. Mm.
And now, if you thought the gloves came off earlier, now the gloves are really going to come off. Go ahead, Pierce.
Look, yeah, I get it. he has a catchphrase that's kind of dumb. He's got an entrance, but you have to bring in this entire body of work since the Bloodline started. You could say he wouldn't be here without Roman. Sure. You could say that he's not the greatest wrestler. Sure. Everybody has bad matches. Everybody is, has issues with their character in the ring. But if there was one person in the Bloodline that made themselves stand out by their character work and by their promos and put themselves on another level, it's Jay. And yeah, maybe the intro farming is a lot. Maybe Yeet is kind of dumb. But this is the most over person in the company by a long shot. Leaving that stadium, there was an electricity that I don't think I've ever felt. Like even leaving WrestleMania when Cody won. Mainly because it was a shock winner. And I don't think any of us had Jay anywhere near, winning.
Nobody did.
Nope.
He was a 66-1 odd to win. So if you put $10 on him, you would have won $660.
Plus your $10 back.
That's a little more than your $10 back. When somebody has a connection like this with the fans, you kind of got to strike the iron. And Brandon, I know you said it. I agree. Him losing at Saturday Night's main event last week is not the greatest look, but he got the green light from Cena. He got the rub. And yeah, there was not a person in that fucking stadium that was not yeeting. It was insane. It was electric. Monday showed that it was the right choice. I know you guys don't care for it. You're welcome not to care for it. I think this was 1,000% the right choice. Jay is the most over person in the company besides maybe Cody. And yeah, you got to strike the iron. I think the story between him and Gunther, Donnie, you think there's no story. There is. It's Jay proving to himself that main event isn't just a nickname that he was given by Roman while he was being mentally abused by him for 3 years. It's proving that he is that damn good. He is the main event. And Gunther's beaten him 3 times. Sure. But each time he was this close. He had it won against Gunther in the IC title match until Jimmy screwed him. He got caught during the King of the Ring tournament, and then last week he got caught again going for a spear. And it's very much, he's always been the groomsman, not the groom. He was the dark horse to beat Roman for the title because of that run he had in the pandemic with those 2 cutting promos. I think this has been mapped out since Jay cut the promo. Maybe not mapped out of him winning the Rumble, but like mapped out of getting him to this point when he cut the promo in the pandemic of they see me and they say, which one are you? And now he's put himself to the point where you know who Jey Uso is, you know who Jimmy Uso is, and Jay worked his ass off. I like it when a grinder wins and gets the adoration. This is the most like happy I've been since Shinsuke won a Rumble, because it's a person that I connect with as somebody who's never been seen as, the best at their field, but can finally get the recognition they deserve. You guys say what you will. I may not argue. I may.
Well, you gave a lot of takes that I definitely want to dispute. I'll say that.
But I think
I'd let you go, but boy, to say, I got to start with one just right off the top of my head here. To say that he was over as soon as he cut that promo, he faded into obscurity once again after he was done losing to Roman twice. Became, yes, a tag team champion with Jimmy, but did nothing until Sami Zayn brought him back up into relevance. So I don't think he was made necessarily from that point, more so than it was Sami bringing him back into relevance through the whole feud that they had together.
Arguably, Sami did a lot for the Bloodline, more than a lot of people give credit for.
Sami kept them from not being stale. They were already getting stale, and people were going, lol, Roman wins, before Sammy came into the picture. And we still got lol, Roman wins, but at least the storytelling associated to Sami Zayn, not to Jey Uso, was what kept the bloodline afloat for that good 8 months, culminating at
Part
Royal
of that
Rumble.
is also Jay in that story with Sammy, because he was the one that didn't trust him. And then they had War Games. The entire time Sammy was there, Jay kept a wild eye on him, you know? He did not trust him at all. You have War Games. Who's the first person to hug him? It's Jay. Jay finally trusts him. They have the trial of Sami Zayn. Who defends Sammy? It's Jay. And then you have the turn at Royal Rumble 23, and Jay's acting in that segment alone was fucking phenomenal.
But it wasn't above Sammy. Like, Sammy was the what is it? The stir that stirred the drink, or the whatever. I'm saying that wrong, but
Sammy was the glue for the Bloodline story going into 2023.
like that, I get what you're saying, and you're not wrong with like those assessments that you're making there. But he wasn't the primary. Without Sammy, none of that happens, and that's like we had talked about this in our group chat on. I mean, Brandon, obviously, you're going to get your time to talk about it if I don't already cover it, or please, chime in as relevant. I originally brought up LA Knight, but I also want to bring up Sami Zayn too. That when these two guys, Sammy and LA Knight, in recency bias associated to the time that Jay was on his up and up, were also just as hot. Sami Zayn during the Sammy Uso run was just as hot. That pop for him at the Royal Rumble in 2023 was insane. That Elimination Chamber match was insane. I was there. And still the culminating point to them beating the Usos at the WrestleMania 39 was also insane, right? And then the megastar movement from initially his first feud with Bray Wyatt, which put him on the map, and then from there, just like he was just riveting promos each and every time he was given a microphone, which wasn't often enough. He was not given the chance to do that every week, but when he did, there was always something to talk about. Like when he talked about Logan Paul having to write his recipe to Prime and shove it up his ass or whatever it was, and everything else that was associated to that. Like they were both hot commodities, and Sammy got at least his main event moment with a tag team. A lot of people were clamming for him to beat Roman at Elimination Chamber. Didn't happen. LA Knight, yes, he did get a United States Championship win. He also got a title match, probably which was summoned by the Saudi people more so than he actually would have been, from a booking perspective, earned it against Roman. But he lost a Money in the Bank ladder match that he was very clearly both the favorite and what the crowd wanted, and instead they gave it to Damian Priest. And these are two guys that like were in the very similar stratosphere of fame. One is certainly better in the ring. One has certainly been in the business just as long as he have. In both cases, that's Sami Zayn. LA Knight is more of a comparable as far as in-ring skill set goes. I was low on LA Knight, admittedly, when he was first getting hot, because I don't think he was that great in the ring. So I put him
I think he's certainly put some gas on it since he's been around.
Sure, but he's still
the triple threat match he
mostly known for his ring work. Is it better? Yes. Is it great? No. Right? Like, I want to be as fair as I can be here.
Sure.
Right? But for those two guys to get such a huge crowd emotion drawn from them and not be afforded what Jey Uso has been afforded, it really feeds into the narrative that if you're not a product of famous alumni in this business, you just don't get the opportunities. And that's frustrating.
Well, and especially considering LA Knight in particular, look at how he could have been absolutely dead in the water with the Max Dupree gimmick, but everybody knew who the fuck he was. you couldn't keep the man down. He moves from that back to LA Knight. He shoots up the roster. He shoots up through the rankings, and he gets to where he ought to be. He never got the big one, and it's debatable whether or not he should have got it. At the time, the U.S. title run I thought was good for what it was, but then there's always the thought of like, well, what's next for him? People are still chanting his name. People still go along with what he's doing in the ring, out of the ring. He still has some features, so they haven't entirely forgotten about him. But I mean, when you compare him to like a Jey Uso type, right? Like you can't say that LA Knight did not put in the work and he's just coasting in off of like his charisma game or whatever, because he clearly has. Like he's been working to improve his in-ring game. The man's 40 years old plus himself, and you'd never guess it by how he works in the ring currently. But he's also been coming off of, I mean, he was an FCW alum, I guess if you want to give him that, but he grinded through the Indies, grinded through, Billy Corgan's NWA, through TNA in a low point when it was switching names like every 6 months. But he was always a standout. And that's what brought him to where he is. So I feel like just as much as anyone, if not more than anyone, LA Knight deserves to be the talk of a main event picture at WrestleMania.
There's a guy I follow on social media. I just want to chime in. His name is Benchwarmer Brand. He's got over 400,000 followers. It's for football related content that he does on Instagram. He went to Royal Rumble and he dressed as LA Knight for the Royal Rumble. So his fame and his stardom is still there. He might not be getting as big of pops as he was during like.
He's still getting some crazy pops.
He still gets crazy pops. So sorry, go on. I just wanted to add that little piece into LA Knight specifically, if I didn't sell him as much as I did Sammy during that part.
Right.
But go ahead.
Well, and to that point though, like he is a bubbling kettle just waiting for the lid to blow off. And I feel like if he were to be afforded similar opportunities as some are, not to say that like in WWE, I feel like we've said it multiple times. The Bloodline storyline is the hottest original product that WWE's put out in probably generations.
It's probably the greatest story they've ever told.
Yeah, without a doubt. I can't think of, with the exception of maybe like Austin versus Vince McMahon, I can't think of a single continuous storyline that has had as much behind it, as many different branches that have sprung from the core and that have benefited all parties involved as the Bloodline storyline. Jey Uso being the prime example of that.
Jey Uso is the unsung hero besides Sammy of the Bloodline story. Like the two people that benefited the most from the Bloodline story are Sammy and Jey Uso. And I'm not saying Sammy or LA Knight doesn't deserve a Rumble win. They absolutely do. I think LA will probably be world champion by the end of the year. I think you guys have been saying Sammy's going to win the Rumble next year.
I would be shocked if Sami Zayn doesn't win the Royal Rumble next year, especially given what happened this year.
It's kind of shocking that Sammy hasn't won a Rumble, but that's also, he was heel for 5 years when he should have never been heel. And which is a whole nother podcast, but like I don't disagree with what you guys are saying. I just think right now the wrestling is a business that's about making money, and who currently makes more money than Jey Uso with WWE besides maybe Cody, Cena, and Roman?
I wonder what the Netflix executives think about that question. Because I feel like I've said it, and you've said it too, Pierce, that with the move to Netflix, and especially considering the behavior of everybody on episode 1 versus subsequent episodes, I feel like there is a certain kowtowing to executive direction from the network, shall we say, that could influence things going forward on Raw. And that's where I think part of the decision came in too, because let's face it, Gunter's not selling t-shirts, right?
I mean,
Gunter's not selling t-shirts, but Jey Uso is.
T-shirt.
And I feel like I've said this from the beginning. I'm like, when they had that first world title match between the two of them, I think it was during the Netflix era of Raw, or it was coming up on it. I'm like, if they go with Jey, it's because Jey sells. I acknowledge that. I will acknowledge the fact that Jey Uso
So do I.
for better or for worse, pushes merch. And we've had this argument before too, you and me included, Donnie, where it's like, at the end of the day, it is a business, and they have to make business decisions that push the bottom line. I get it. It irks me to no fucking end, especially considering it comes at the expense of Gunther potentially, who, for my money, is like right within my wheelhouse of wrestling philosophy. Like, he doesn't have to talk the biggest game, but he can pack the hardest fucking punch. And he's got all this, he's got so much upside to him. That's why he's world champion right now. That's why everybody was saying once he won that belt, he letting that shit go for a long time. And they're right to think that. Because everything he does in the ring is absolutely fucking believable. And he's only improved on the mic, which is great for him. And it's great for his standing at the top. But, I mean, based off of his ability alone, being part of the greatest Intercontinental Championship, greatest Intercontinental Championship match for my money, and the greatest triple threat match of all time for my money at WrestleMania, Gunther having won those, I feel like his work speaks for itself. That being said, it's not the kind of work that Netflix is necessarily looking at. They're looking at people who they can push. They're looking at people with potential cross-brand connectivity and promotion, and Jay does that better than Gunther. And by virtue of that, that's where I could potentially see Jay winning this match at Mania, because that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to push merch. They're trying to put asses in seats. And to this point, Jay does that better. I hate to admit that, but it's the truth.
The story they're going to tell is going to be very good. It's just, we got to get...
It's not anything that hasn't been told before and better, in my opinion.
Is it as good as the stories that we're missing out on as a result of this match?
That too. I mean...
Like, we talked about this. I defended the Charlotte Flair match because I think there's no better story to tell right now than Charlotte losing to Tiffany Stratton at WrestleMania. Is there a better match to tell than Jey Uso beating Gunther at WrestleMania? Yes. Yes, there is. John Cena can do it, right? If we're losing out on matches that Cody Rhodes could have because of this, because Cody only has to fight one particular guy that isn't another option that could be a good candidate, like we're missing out on that too. And
they're building towards the John heel turn on Cody. I think that's a way more compelling story. I could see Punk Gunther would be a hell of a story. I'm not going to disagree with that. I'm the fucking biggest Punk mark maybe ever.
We don't know that John is turning heel though, just because he's literally said he has no interest in turning heel when he first talked about coming back after Money in the Bank.
He'll be working us.
It's possible, but I will say that he did say he has no interest in turning heel when he did that interview at Money in the Bank.
He did
that presser after the Rumble, though, man.
I don't disagree, Donnie. I just think on the business side and, just as a Jay fan.
Yeah, I get it. I'm not trying to say that your idea is wrong. Let me be very clear. It's just there's a combination of things. I think it's almost universally known that the worst match that Gunther's had since he's been on the, a champion on the main roster was that King of the Ring qualifying match against Jey Uso. That match was not good. Right?
Yeah,
like
the match last weekend was great.
Yeah, it was fine.
I get Jay had the worst match at one of the best WrestleManias last year, but not everybody has good matches. Cena did not have great matches in his heyday. Fucking Cody's had bad matches. Roman's definitely had bad matches. And, these are... Punk's had bad matches. Seth Rollins has had bad matches. Not everybody has good matches, and that's okay. And I understand there's a lot of spamming in Jay's moveset, but,
Super kick party!
I guess my question is, like, what is one Jey Uso match, singles match, not tag, not involving his brother, not involving the bloodline? What is one Jey Uso match where you could watch it from front to back and say, this is the guy that I want headlining my main event of WrestleMania?
I think the Jey Uso versus Braun Breaker match was probably his best singles match. The night that he won the title on Raw. That was probably his best.
The Jey Uso Gunther match from 2 weeks ago. That was phenomenal.
It
from
was pretty
Saturday
good.
night's main event.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
it was
match
so
last
good.
weekend wasn't bad. Like it was quite good. I think the match against Braun was probably a bit better, but that also had the benefit of him winning to help with
Of the
that.
shock. I think for our money, this is the most shocking Rumble winner ever.
You mean it's not
Realistically.
Charlotte Flair the first time?
It's hard to beat Vince McMahon in that
Yeah, Vince
category.
McMahon was pretty shocking, in fairness.
Vince McMahon wasn't shocking though because it was him 1 and 2, and then he sat on the outside the whole time with fucking Stone Cold, and then he just dumped Stone Cold at the end while he was yelling at The Rock.
What about Brock Lesnar winning it when he already had a title match earlier in the night?
It's not shocking.
That was shocking.
No, it's not shocking.
That was
at all.
alarming. It was alarming and disheartening. I will say that.
2022 has 2 of the worst Rumbles ever.
Let me see the Royal Rumble winners. Hold on, I want. You're probably right. I just want to see if there's
Maybe
another
Cena
one.
in 08 because nobody thought he was going to be there.
Cena
But
in 08, as soon as he is
he comes
available,
out, you're like, oh yeah, Cena's winning.
he's going to win, sure. But like for that actual, yeah, Cena is a very valid one there.
For announced entrance, this was the most stacked Rumble of all time, and they picked the dark horse winner that nobody expected, and I'm fine with it. And I think, Jay was crying on Monday during his promo, and you could tell that this means a lot to him because the fans connect with him. And Brandon, I know you said Jimmy's kind of the Marty Jannetty of the Usos. I think Jimmy's going to win the United States title by Mania.
Well, I said he was the Matt Hardy of the Usos, which I feel is a valid point yet. Because even if Jimmy does win a mid-card title here and there, he's not getting out of Jay's shadow with this one.
Nope.
There's no way they're going to be on the same level. And if they could be, why would you want them to be? It just comes off extremely ham-fisted.
We don't need another bloodline member shoved to the top of the card that arguably may not be deserving.
No.
Well, and I would argue that Jimmy is every bit as deserving as Jay, if not more. I feel like Jimmy's the better wrestler. I feel like Jimmy's just as intense on the mic. I feel like for his little pushes he's gotten relative to Jay, he still stands out. Like he can be Big Jim.
I like Jimmy's promo ability better. He just doesn't have the charisma.
I do too.
Jay's
well, it just doesn't.
Is next level, and when Jay cuts an emotional promo, there's not many better than him. Jimmy hasn't been given the option to cut the emotional promo because he's more been on the comedy side. Which is not a bad thing because Jimmy is a very, very good comedian with his promos.
Well, it's like what I had mentioned.
He can be.
It's like what I mentioned in our group chat. Let me find those couple tweets here. Andrade, please just start doing the whip and nay on TV. EO, please start saying D's nuts after every sentence. Like, is that what we need our stars to do? That we actually are good in the ring in order to get over? Like,
honestly, though, too, Yeet itself was already like out the door in like social relevance by the time by the time Jay started saying.
I would also say the whip and nay.
Kind of talked about that on the McAfee show on Monday. They asked him where Yeet came from, and it's just it's the yada I mean that Jacob says. It's kind of the Samoans and the South Bay boys kind of
Bay Area slang.
And it was like they would say yee, and then it just kind of turned into yeet, and then it just kind of took off from there.
Well, yeet has been around for a little bit though. Like it's been
around since the Vine.
TikTok.
Someone's getting yeeted. Like that's how I always thought. Like yeet was like someone like gets like tossed somewhere. They get yeeted.
But they would say something similar, and then Jay kind of turned it into yeet and made it his own his character.
So we just need EO to say D's nuts and chill main event WrestleMania.
Well,
everybody will love it.
Eddie Kingston already said D's nuts and then made a shirt out of it, and it was a really bad shirt. So I would say let's not.
An AEW shirt was a bad shirt. Hey, did you see that Ricochet shirt that just came out?
Yeah,
I've heard about it. I haven't seen it.
My God.
Great.
Hang on, I'm gonna. As you guys are discussing that, I'm gonna pull it up.
Ricochet's current character is kind of nice.
It's not as bad as the Britt Baker shirt. Oh my God. But yeah, it's real bad. So yeah, color me shocked.
AEW. The guns are back, so I'm happy for that. Big pop.
Sorry,
they're back with me, man. But
I couldn't help it when you say bad shirt and it's AEW. I'm just like woof. Like I know it was right in the news about Ricochet's, and we can't forget about Britt Baker's, domestic abuse shirt, which was horrible. I don't know who was thinking when they released that shirt.
Bad taste.
I think we talked about it
Poor
on the
taste.
podcast once.
Punk and Cody have both said this. AEW is not predicated on it's predicated on
which is the dog shit Ricochet shirt. It's not the white one with his face on it, is it?
Yes, it is.
The Unstoppable.
It
is?
Oh, it's like all it says on it.
It's
that's
like kind of mocking the American Psycho face.
Let me see if I can find it.
Oh Lord. Yeah, I recognize the American Psycho.
They probably have to find on Twitter because Google's not helping me here. Let me see on X.
Yeah, I think they've kind of memory hold that, and probably for good reason. Is it? Oh, brother. Now I'm going to be dedicating this segment.
I got it for you. I'm going to put it in our chat right now so you can see it.
Oh, Lord. Bracing myself.
There you go.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Here we go. The fuck is that? Oh, it's horrible.
Look, yeah. I like Ricochet's current character because it's fucking weird. And it's actually him having a character, but that's
disgraceful.
Disgraceful. I don't know, Go Away Heat isn't always a good character, but you and I have a lot of disagreements on what is good and what is not, or what we like and what we don't like.
Really,
and that's
Go Away Heat. He's actually doing something. He's fucking taking scissors and trying to murder people. It's interesting. It's not as fucking stupid as the Death Riders, but
we're not turning this into. But anyways, so like we talked about Jey Uso a lot there. It's totally. Let me say this on the side of someone who's not happy with what happened. It's totally reasonable to be happy for Jey and to look forward to that event. Okay, again, that match against Gunther. Okay, so it's totally fine. It is also okay.
I've been waiting for you to say that for like a fucking week, asshole.
It's easier to say it over a conversation where you can hear me say it than it is over me sending a whole bunch of hilarious tweets on it and talking about D's nuts and Io Sky. But
making me feel stupid about my decision.
No. That's the thing. Like that's the cool part about this like wrestling circle is that we can have wildly different opinions on stuff, and it's okay because it's just rooted in what we like or don't like. There's no like objectively wrong. Like Jey Uso was not the objectively right or the objectively wrong winner.
I think the only winner that would have been objectively wrong would have been The Miz.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously a number of guys that would be objectively wrong, but like, I think in the circle of what we got, it's okay to be happy with Jey winning. It's also okay to be happy with Jey or not be happy with Jey winning, right? Like, right. It's you kind of set yourself up for a bit of a standard or a bit of a like. We all do our fantasy booking nonsense in our head, and then when there's a monkey wrench that gets thrown into that, you're like, well, that's not right because that's not what I thought of, and that's kind of what Brandon and I are probably guilty of to an extent here is like,
you're not as bad as the IWC. These IWC nerds are fucking ridiculous.
It's not like I looked to sell my WrestleMania ticket when I saw the result. So,
right.
You
hope they would have went down in price though, but
I'm not burning my Jey Uso autograph.
I sold me and Brandon's and bought us front row. Brandon, you owe me like $7,000 now.
Well,
I'm not selling my Jey Uso autograph or burning my Jey Uso autograph. Like, I'm not doing any of that. I would have preferred to see CM Punk win. I would have preferred to see a story where we got Randy versus Cody. But now we know we're not getting Randy versus Cody. Well, we don't know, but we're almost confident we're not going to see Randy versus. But we're talking about putting stories on the back burner, right? Talking about Drew McIntyre getting put on the back burner. How long did they tease Randy versus Cody?
Right.
Now
there was a lot of deference.
We're not getting that anytime soon, right? And it's like, is Jey winning possibly going to prevent some of those matches from happening? It's possible, and that kind of sucks. And that's where I'm at with it. So we don't need to beat a dead horse anymore. I apologize if I came across too harshly to you, Pierce, over the course of the week that it happened. You are totally allowed to believe what you want, as are we.
Well, I appreciate the apology, so thank you.
Cool. Overall, what did we think about the show?
My Mania tickets to go front row. So
very good. What did we think about the show as a whole?
I thought it was two very good Rumbles. a fucking insanely good ladder match, and a good tag team match that did not get the love it deserved. If I'm gonna rate it, and this is from somebody who was there, I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. It like I said, there was just an electricity leaving that arena, and seeing so many happy faces. It was an insane show. So that's my thoughts.
Brandon?
Sure. I feel that the Rumbles both were fantastic, but I also feel that they ended on kind of a sour note. My personal take on it. I thought the women's Rumble delivered in a great way that the men's Rumble didn't, and vice versa. I felt like I felt like the women's Rumble kind of, when you have 5 women from NXT showing up, it really highlighted, like we've been talking about, the importance of the current NXT roster to the future of not just the WWE women's roster, but of women's wrestling in general.
In comparison,
I
there
felt
were
like that
0 men from NXT, which is kind of damning in its own right.
precisely, but damning and understandable for the fact that unlike the women's Rumble, you had so many gigantic names that were in. I mean, you had Hall of Famers in Trish Stratus, to be sure. You had names like Bianca Belair in there, to be sure. Jordan Grace coming in.
You had 3 people in the ring at the same time that could realistically be on the Mount Rushmore of men's wrestling.
Absolutely. I mean, you had so many stories interwoven into that. I mean, they knew what they were doing around the end of the Rumble. They wait till near the very end there, and they have Rollins, Punk, Cena, Reigns out in the ring all at the same time. And even the announcers were selling the shit out of it too. Cole was selling the hell out of the fact that like there's so many stories involved with those 4 men, so many potentials for things to occur. And when
Cena and Roman had that stare down, I was hitting my fucking roommate. I was like, CM Punk's coming out next. I fucking know it. And then music hits. I freak the fuck out. And I apologize for interrupting, but like you legit, like CM Punk is, and Roman Reigns and John Cena and even Seth Rollins are fucking at their own point. Like those are 4 guys that can realistically be on Mount Rushmores of pro wrestling.
Well, and dude, interject where you want. In this case, you were there. Like you felt that, you experienced that in a way that neither Donnie or I had. So, but on that point though, I feel like there was just something that the women's Rumble brought that the men's did not, and there was something that the men's Rumble brought that the women's did not. Mm-hmm. Do I agree with both of the winners? Absolutely not. But it doesn't take away from the fact that they took me on a fucking ride. And the matches in between, DIY and Motor City Machine Guns made the case for a 2-night Rumble. They had a great match for what they were given. I think they played their part precisely as they were meant to.
They should have opened. I know it's smart to open with a Rumble, but like lead into that.
They've been bookending a lot.
Have this 15-minute banger, go into the Rumble, and then your cooldown match is a brutal ass ladder match. I think they could have paced it a little better.
I think in this scenario where they have 4 matches on the card and 2 of them are Rumble matches, like leading off with that, you're going to have a lot of people just going back to grab their concessions and stuff before things, like I don't know. I don't think that's correct. I think you got to start with some sort of like bang with most of these. Like if we look back historically on not even just Rumbles, but other cards in general over the last couple of years, there's a match to get you going, right?
Right.
So I don't know if that's like, that puts them in a very tough spot where it's like, well, this is the match has got to fire us up. And again, I don't mean to beat a dead horse here, but when you have 4 guys that aren't known for their crowd engagement kicking off a show, I don't know that that's necessarily best.
But I brought it back to NXT last week. You know, the Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch versus the Undisputed Era. The guys were not given the time of day, and then they went out and had this fucking banger and got a standing ovation. if they do 2 night rumbles, which they 1,000% should, they can pace it better that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think both matches in between the rumbles made excellent cases for 2 night rumble because neither match I feel got the shine they rightly deserved. Because those are both fucking banger ass matches on paper. Like you even said it, Pierce, you were counting on the tag team match to be like the dark horse match of the night candidate, and rightfully so, because DIY brings their shit in high stakes tag team matches. They've done it since NXT. The Motor City Machine Guns work speaks for itself, and they're very compatible teams. So, I mean, right, and like I said, I feel like they did what they needed to do. Should they have had more spotlight and showcase? Absolutely, but the cards were very much stacked against them in that regard, and not to their detriment. Not to their detriment at all. That whole card was fucking loaded.
And to speak on the men's rumble, one thing that did happen, if you hear in the show, which Brandon told me he did, and I heard it myself, an AJ Styles chant, your boy started it, and my roommate can tell you that's the truth, because nobody was doing it until I started fucking chanting.
There you
AJ
go.
Styles.
I'd put the clap in here, but it doesn't have the same cadence.
No, it's a golf
The
club.
golf clap.
But my roommate knows I started it. He can corroborate my story. So, but Donnie, what are your thoughts on the event as a whole?
Did Brandon give it a score? I must have missed it.
Oh, I would give it. I'd give it an 8.75, 9. I'd give it. Yeah, we'll just round it to 9. I'd give it a 9 as well.
And if it was in the Tokyo Dome?
Oh, brother. Well, Shinsuke Nakamura would have won it then, but unfortunately, he couldn't get a single elimination.
It's okay. We still got the Super Kick party out of it, so it's fine.
Oh, God.
Off is the direction you can fuck.
That's specifically to the Young Bucks. That's specifically to the Young Bucks.
Yeah.
Or to the concept of super kick parties in general.
Yeah, it's unfortunate it's hard to protect it as much.
Yeah, one more thing I will want to say on that, like Jey Uso better have the goddamn match of his life at WrestleMania.
I think he will.
Better have the goddamn match of his life, win or lose, because if that match is not good, oh boy.
He's done. He is done.
I think both Royal Rumble matches were good, and I think Brandon brought up a great point that one kind of brought something else that the other didn't have, which was nice. Just the absolute star power in the men's, and really showing the development of the youth in the women's is, very different. But I think putting shine on, like both Iron people being young or new talent, I thought was a really cool choice. So shout out Penta and Roxanne for getting that shine on. Both those matches were great, and yeah, I don't agree with one of the winners, but that's okay. That's how shit works sometimes. The tag match I was whatever on, but I mean it was a good tag match for what it was. And then the ladder match was crazy. I give it a 9. Yeah, I easily give it a 9. I would almost even give it a 9.5. I'm probably in the 9.25 range, even though I wasn't even there, because not a bad match on the card. You can hate who you want to hate on who won, but those matches were good matches, those Rumble matches. So 9.25 for me.
Admirable.
Who's going to be in the men's elimination chamber? We have one confirmed.
2 confirmed.
Oh yeah, sorry. We have John Cena, who confirmed in his promo post Rumble, and then we have then CM Punk beat Sami Zayn,
and then a very, very good main event.
And then we have 2 more qualifying matches to come that have been confirmed. One is next week, Logan Paul versus Rey Mysterio.
And then Seth's having one at some point against somebody.
It's Seth versus Finn Balor.
It's going to be Seth and Logan, guaranteed.
Yeah. Who else? Who's going to be? So Seth, that gives Seth, Logan, Punk, Cena. It looks like
Drew.
Reigns will not be one of them.
Drew and Damien.
Can I say I think there's a chance that Finn beats Seth, and not necessarily by the fact that it's Finn by himself, but the fact that like Punk or somebody else will screw Seth Rollins in that match. Because Seth doesn't need to be in the chamber to go to WrestleMania. I think we've already kind of seen the writing on the wall, and that Seth won't be involved in a world title match, right? So he doesn't necessarily have to be in the chamber. But I feel like between Seth and Finn, I mean, Finn's record against Seth has been like fucking god awful, and Seth's been taking a couple losses lately. So maybe there's a chance that Finn pulls it out.
Seth didn't interfere in Punk's match, which makes me feel that Punk won't interfere in Seth's match. But Punk is petty like that, so it's possible.
Sure.
I could see someone, even though he's with his move to Raw now, maybe a little bit less likely. I could see AJ Styles being in that match.
Yeah.
To what appears to be a likely WrestleMania match against Logan Paul.
Yeah, build that up.
But yeah, Damian Priest could be. Sorry, what was the other one that you said? Pierce?
Damien and Drew.
Damien and Drew. Damien and Drew is probably the easiest ones to call there. I would agree. I think it's still too soon for Jacob Fatu simply because someone would then have to pin him, and I don't think you want to do that. LA Knight could be. Maybe.
Yeah, he's always a dark horse.
Sami Zayn could still win a last chance, potentially. But yeah, I think those are. I think there's more options for the men than there are the women, but I still think the 6 that they're presenting themselves to be are probably right. I am a little disappointed that it does not seem like Roman Reigns will be an option. Because if you had an elimination chamber that had Roman Reigns, Logan Paul, Seth Rollins, CM Punk, John Cena, and one more, that would be the craziest elimination chamber I think ever.
Right.
So, Drew McIntyre. Sorry, I got to throw Drew in there. So yeah. So I would have liked to have seen those 6. It doesn't look like Roman's going to be in there. So yeah, Damian Priest probably fills that spot.
Right. I think that'll be a fun match. I think both chambers will be a lot of fun.
Yep.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear about that from you there, Don. You're going to be going to the Elimination Chamber out there in Toronto.
Yeah.
Got some Ope-Eh representation for the next 3 PLEs.
And the SmackDown that night, the night before. So yeah, it'll be a very different experience from the viewing perspective, though. Going from front row one night to 500 levels in a baseball stadium the next night is a bit of a variance, but it should still
pretty
be fun.
Pretty sweet vantage point on a chamber, though. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm hoping, like, at least I took the seat where it's like directly on with the Jumbotron, so I don't think I'll have any issues seeing anything. I've been to the Rogers Center.
Probably gravitate to it no matter where you are in the stadium, unless you're on the floor.
Yeah, but yeah, that'll be fun, and we'll talk about that in a couple of weeks. Wow, time's flying. Next week's episode, we were thinking of doing one thing, and now we're going to do something else. Tell us what we're doing, Brandon.
Well, I mean, love is in the air, but unfortunately, there's not really any room for good, healthy love in pro wrestling. So we might, give a little skim, maybe see where romance fit into the kayfabe and where it completely fell apart. Babies getting punted and all that. We also have obviously NXT Vengeance Day coming up. We can speculate on who's going to be in this new foursome that's hiding in the shadows. We also have, speaking of shadowy specters, we have Grand Slam Australia coming up for AEW, which it looks like they just announced, surprise, surprise, Buddy Matthews versus Kazuchika Okada for the AEW Continental Championship at that event. So that'll be interesting.
Isn't it just a collision now? Isn't it literally just a 2-hour show now?
Yeah, I mean, it's Grand Slam. I don't think it was ever going to be a pay-per-view. So
It was going to be a pay-per-view.
I don't think they ever announced it as a pay-per-view.
I think I'm pretty sure they did. I feel like they did.
Well, if they did, shame on me. But
we got that coming up. I mean, hopefully, if we can squeeze it in with everything, I would like to get a look at what we think is coming up for the year 2025. I know we're really deep into WrestleMania season now. I know there's a lot going on in the current sense of pro wrestling, but I'd like to get a fun little perspective on what we can anticipate coming up through the end of the year. Obviously, John Cena is going to carry a lot of that going through with his retirement storyline. You've got Goldberg retiring this year. You've got Hiroshi Tanahashi retiring this year from New Japan. You've got all sorts of potentials that can occur. You've got WrestleMania 41 could be a Kingmaker pay-per-view like WrestleMania 21, 20 years prior. So much speculation.
Yeah, that's going to be our primary part for next week's show, correct? We all decided that it was going to be 2025 predictions next week, and then we'll squeeze in Vengeance Day and Grand Slam.
Grand Slam?
Yeah.
I think so.
Okay, cool. So that's what we're going to have next week. So stay tuned for that. We'll get our prediction hats on for that. We might sneak in a hot take or two there as part of a prediction. You never know. Can't wait.
Never know.
Can't wait for all those TNA predictions as a result. I'm not letting
You
that
know
one
they're
go
coming.
for a bit. I'm not letting that one go for a bit.
Oh, neither am I. I already told you. I told you flat out. I was throwing TNA in this year, boys. It's a coming.
We know. Call it the TNA. Adair.
Yeah.
TNA.
Yeah, I'll keep it fenced in for a while, but don't be surprised if you get a couple. It's inevitable. It's linked to NXT now. Come on.
Hey, if there's stuff
gonna
that's
be
worth
something
talking about, then by all means, we'd be happy to bring it up. It's just sometimes when stuff gets brought up, I just sit there. I'm just like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Talk about our
Fair.
boy Joe constantly.
Well, I guess we'll have to pay attention up on Sportsnet there. Hey, guy.
I do hope you open up those, to Pierce's point, though, as saying TNA there.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you got to.
Yeah, so that has got to be your trademark for kicking off those YouTube clips. It will eventually get on YouTube, as well as everything else.
Yep, keep your eyes peeled.
That's correct.
We're already over probably where we thought we were going to be. So, you want to finish this off there?
Okay, you want to do that shit today, Brandon. I knew it wasn't going to work out.
What you mean?
You want to do the 2025 predictions today. I knew it was going
to Oh, not a chance. Yeah, after I kind of took things in the balance, I'm like, there's no way.
We're already 2.5 hours in almost, so that'll be next week.
Sure. I'll be here for it.
Yeah.
Pierce, send us home, please.
All right. As always, thanks for stopping into the Ope-Eh 3-Way. Have a beer on us. We'll see you guys next time. Have a great night.